Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 41 was in last audiobook so. Chapter 42, High-ranking Demon, Ifrit. Time seemed to stand still. With a whoosh, Gulanta flew above the flame giant's head, an astonishing magical aura emanating from him. Grasping the ice demon tightly in his hand, he swung the sword down at the flame giant's head. Silence. With this strike, heaven and earth seemed to mourn. Oh, that was just the sound of the wind howling, so never mind. Back to the protagonist's strike. Space was directly torn open into a blue fissure, and Gulanta's voice followed. Open black lens bracket ice rift cut close black lens bracket. This was a skill inherent to the ice demon, combining one of its two characteristics, resulting in unknown power. Gulanta hadn't had a chance to try it before, and now he had the perfect opportunity. The blue ice light directly plunged into the flame giant's body, and the flame giant, which had been struggling violently, stopped moving, its magical aura gradually disappearing. No, it wasn't disappearing, but being devoured by the ice demon in his hand. Gulanta couldn't be mistaken, it was indeed being devoured by the ice demon. This should be its second characteristic. No spoilers for now, Shang has decided to keep you in suspense. Diamond suit. Gulanta directly sheathed the ice demon longsword, and he could feel that the icy blue blade was even more yaoi than before. Looking at the flame giant's body, it was pinned to the ground by ice spears, its entire head covered from top to bottom by a vertically intersecting ice crystal rhombus. On the outside, only a blue ice rhombus scar could be seen, but Gulanta knew that the entire head had already been split in two, only the entire wound was frozen together by frost. Not bad power. Gulanta directly nodded in satisfaction. Announcement: the host has successfully killed a level of flame giant, the predator has been successfully activated. Extract now. Overlord confirms. Extraction successful. Host has obtained level A material flame demon core. Just then, Gulanta had just dealt with the flame giant on his side and hadn't had time to check his gains when a huge commotion came from Limuru's side. An astonishingly thick pillar of flame soared into the sky, and a terrifying magical aura spread. Gulanta narrowed his beautiful eyes, and with his vision, he could see a blurry figure in the pillar of flame. Limuru's voice also came. Open black lens bracket Gulanta, have you finished your side? Miss Jingjong has turned into a strange-looking demon man, come and help, close black lens bracket. A strange demon man, could it be that higher demon Ifrit? Gulanta also muttered to himself, not reacting for a moment. It can only be him. Gulanta spread his transparent wings on his back and rushed towards the direction of the pillar of flame at an extremely fast speed. On a distant high ground, Lanya and the others tensely stared at the direction of the flame pillar that had just appeared. Could it be the legendary flame spirit Ifrit? In that case, Miss Jingjong wouldn't be the wielder of explosive flame. Didn't that legendary adventurer retire more than 20 years ago? Lanya looked worriedly in the direction of Limuru, but when he noticed that Gulanta's battle had ended and he was heading towards Lord Limuru, a big stone finally fell from his heart. If it's Lord Gulanta, then there's nothing to worry about. Hearing Lanya's words, the faces of the trio instantly became extremely awkward, as if they had been slapped in the face, their faces burning with pain. They had already heard Lanya explain it in detail once, that the little elf they had encountered before was actually one of the two lords they had mentioned. Moreover, from Lanya's relieved expression, it could be inferred that this lord was definitely a very reliable existence. It was ridiculous that they had previously boasted in front of this lord that they would protect the little elf. Especially the magician named Ailing, she had cared for the little elf all the way. Thinking of this, Ailing couldn't wait to find a crack in the ground to crawl into, or use her toes to dig out a piece of open space to hide her face. Just then, Gulanta's figure quickly arrived at this battlefield like a ghost. From afar, he saw that the large flame pillar was still erupting continuously, and the raging flames illuminated the entire sky. Limuru should still be in the flame pillar. Gulanta thought. He wasn't worried about this child of fortune at all. Don't underestimate Limuru now, you know, Gulanta sends the demons he hunts to Limuru to devour. Just like the demonic mutant armored dinosaur that was snatched from the dwarf kingdom before. Limuru is simply a super cheat. He can keep getting stronger just by relying on the predator, unlike Gulanta, who has to personally hunt demons. Since the two of them came out of the storm cave together, Limuru has hardly ever made a move, and he probably doesn't even know how strong he is. Tisk tisk tisk. Gulanta stared intently at the humanoid demon in the air, carefully examining it up and down, and kept making exclamations. The magical aura emanating from this humanoid demon had actually reached the level of an ordinary demon lord. Although it had only just reached it, it was enough to make Gulanta's eyes become extremely fiery. Level S material. Gulanta licked his lips and said. And Ifrit, who was enjoying the baptism of explosive flame in the flame pillar, seemed to sense something and opened his scarlet eyes. Then he heard someone muttering, the content of which made Ifrit extremely furious. As expected of Platinum Demon Lord Leon Cromwell, one of the strongest demon lords, even a fire attribute summon has the strength of an ordinary demon lord. Ifrit had already seen the person speaking, a pair of icy blue pupils staring intently at him, with a chilling coldness in his eyes. So it's you. I already felt that annoying aura on you when I was in the host's body. And I want to emphasize, I'm not those low-level summons, but the flame spirit Ifrit. Ifrit said to Gulanta below in an emotionless tone, as if these were very important. Huh, not a demon man, you dare call yourself a spirit? Gulanta looked confused, was this higher demon concerned about these things? Shut up, you damned ice spirit. Ifrit became even more furious, the flames all over his body rising. Gulanta's words simply poked at his sore spot. HMPH. You will be burned to ashes by me like your tiny slime. Ifrit's voice became extremely cold at this moment. Huh, where did you get your confidence? Gulanta didn't expect this Ifrit to be so arrogant. He put his hands together and slightly moved his neck. Chapter 43, Crushing Game. You underestimate my friend too much. Granstar didn't look at Ifrit again, his gaze went directly to the fading pillar of fire. Ifrit's face was filled with disbelief. He followed Granstar's gaze and saw the spot where Rimuru had disappeared. To his surprise, he found a round, blurry blue shadow there, greedily devouring the surrounding flames until it had sucked all the fire into its belly. Burp. Rimuru even let out a loud, satisfied burp. Then, it began to look around and quickly noticed the approaching Granstar. In an instant, Rimuru's eyes welled up with tears. It excitedly hopped towards Granstar. Granstar, I thought I'd never see you again. Especially when I was being swallowed by the flames, I even wrote my will. From now on, the village is in your hands. Rimuru jumped onto Granstar's shoulder, landing securely, tears of pitifulness almost falling. However, when Granstar heard Rimuru say that the village would be entrusted to him, his face darkened. Good kid. We're brothers in arms, but you're playing tricks on me. Who are you putting on a show for? Rimuru, the slime brand tool producer, is destined to be you, so don't decline. Rimuru, stop pretending. With the heat fluctuation resistance trait, are you still afraid of fire? Granstar even patted Rimuru's round belly after speaking. Are you full? Rimuru smiled awkwardly, scratching its head sheepishly. So, you knew all along. Ifrit's face on the opposite side became extremely unsightly, and he pondered to himself. How is that possible? My ultimate move couldn't even kill a slime. His eyes were filled with disbelief and anger. Ifrit's demonic flames surged. With a wave of his hands, 3 summoning magic circles instantly lit up. As the light flickered, 3 enormous fire dragons, radiating a powerful aura, soared from the magic circles. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws, charging fiercely from the sky towards Granstar and the others with a condescending attitude. Granstar, be careful. That strange demon has made his move. Let's deal with it together this time. Rimuru, noticing Ifrit's actions, hurriedly reminded Granstar beside him. However, Granstar turned a blind eye to the fire dragons summoned by Ifrit, not even bothering to glance at them. The corner of his mouth rose slightly, he snorted softly, and then raised his hand, quickly casting a summoning spell. Hey, just a few summoning magic circles. Coincidentally, I know how to do that too. Accompanied by a burst of dazzling light, a giant magic circle appeared between them. This magic circle was massive in scale, almost covering the entire battlefield. At first, only a huge hand made of ice slowly extended, followed by the entire sturdy upper body. Finally, a majestic body like a snow-covered ice mountain was completely presented before everyone's eyes. This ice giant was tens of meters tall, crystal clear, and exuded a suffocating chill. Its existence seemed to freeze the surrounding air, giving people a sense of unshakable oppression. Compared to the fire dragons summoned by Ifrit, the ice giant was superior in both size and aura. Is this the magical creature summoned by Granstar? This is too powerful. Rimuru widened its eyes, staring in astonishment at the enormous figure before him. A giant as vast as an iceberg stood before him, its body, towering over 10 meters, made his eyes widen. Even those who were observing from outside the battlefield could clearly see the ice giant summoned by Granstar. Each of them was dumbfounded, involuntarily swallowing hard. Looking at the aura emanating from this ice giant, it possesses at least an A+ level of strength. That elf is actually so powerful. Someone who wasn't trying hard at all didn't hide the shock in their heart, exclaiming involuntarily. Rimuru felt that it also needed to put in some effort, otherwise, it might just be a bystander this time. Immediately afterward, Rimuru began to cast its skills, obviously preparing for a powerful strike to show some real strength. Black lightning flash. With an angry shout, Rimuru launched its attack. An astonishing ray of lightning, like divine punishment descending, carrying endless destructive aura, struck directly at one of the diving fire dragons with the force of thunder. In an instant, the lightning exploded. Boom! That black lightning flash, representing absolute power, seemed to possess the power to destroy the heavens and the earth, actually forcibly splitting that fire dragon summon, possessing A-level strength, into countless pieces. These fragments fell to the ground like raindrops, each piece shimmering with faint lightning, as if telling of the terrifying power of that strike just now. At the same time, Glansta's ice giant showed an even more violent side. It raised its head and let out a deafening roar, then stretched out a pair of huge icy palms, like a giant god, easily grabbing the other two menacing fire dragons. The two fire dragons struggled constantly in the ice giant's hands, uttering bursts of wails, but their efforts were in vain. A cruel smile appeared on the face of the ice giant, and then it mercilessly clenched its palms. Only two muffled sounds of bang and bang were heard, and the two fire dragons were instantly crushed, turning into specks of light and dissipating into the air. The crisp sounds of these two explosions entered Ifrit's ears, whose mouth twitched slightly, as if the greatest mockery and irony. Glansta crossed his arms, raised his head, and looked calmly at Ifrit's face, which had already turned ashen. "Is this all you've got?" Glansta said indifferently, his tone full of disdain and contempt. The ice giant seemed to sense the emotions of its master. It waved its thick arms and let out a low roar towards Ifrit in front of it, the roar containing endless taunting meaning. Ifrit's face became darker and darker because of anger. He stared fixedly at Glansta and the ice giant, his eyes flashing with anger. Hey, the personalities of these summons are so similar to Glansta's. Rimuru mourned for Ifrit in his heart for 3 seconds. Rolling up raging flames. The Ifrit in front of him split into several giants, about 18, Rimuru even counted them specifically. These 18 Ifrits, indistinguishable between true and false, directly trapped Glansta and them to death. Glansta, what is it trying to do? By the way, can you tell which one is real and which one is fake? Rimuru felt that with Glansta around, he didn't panic at all, but instead asked him. Glansta stroked his chin and finally said with certainty. It's not difficult to distinguish them. Ifrit is formed of flames, the temperature of the real body must be higher than the fake ones. You can distinguish them through heat source perception. Oh, can you do that? Rimuru tried the method Glansta said. Hey, it really works. Water Blade shot out quickly, but it didn't seem to have any useful effect. Rimuru, physical attacks are ineffective against Ifrit's elementally condensed body, use magical element attacks. Glansta also reminded Rimuru. Then let's have another black lightning flash. After an astonishing ray of lightning, the surrounding clones directly exploded, turning into a large amount of flame power. Glansta's pupils shrank slightly. He had already guessed Ifrit's plan. Hey, why doesn't this Ifrit have any reaction? Rimuru hadn't realized anything yet. Suddenly, these large amounts of flame power directly merged into the ground beneath them, and a giant red magic circle emerged from the ground. Chapter 44, The Giant Flame Exploding Prison Formation. Ifrit's mouth curled into a sinister smile. He knew that he had paid a heavy price to cast this magic, consuming the fire magic of 17 clones to complete it. How cunning, Granstar. I actually fell for it. It seems like it's about to use its ultimate move. Rimuru was filled with regret, cursing Ifrit's treachery in his heart. However, Granstar didn't take it to heart. Don't forget, both he and Rimuru possess the ability of open black lens bracket thermal fluctuation resistance close black lens bracket, a natural counter to all fire attacks. He was actually curious to see what tricks Ifrit could pull off. As time passed, the magic circle covering the entire battlefield slowly began to operate, and at the same time, Ifrit's cold voice entered everyone's ears. Open black lens bracket extreme giant flame hell explosion array close black lens bracket. What? Such a powerful move. Rimuru's face was full of astonishment. Just from the name, he could feel the terrifying power of this move. It was obviously an ultimate skill that could determine the outcome of the battle. Granstead, on the other hand, was even more bewildered. He clearly remembered that there didn't seem to be such a skill in the original work. Why wasn't this Ifrit playing by the rules? Immediately afterward, a huge light Jiao with a diameter of more than 100 meters descended with a bang, like an insurmountable city wall, enveloping everyone, including the ice giant. Granstead put a layer of open black lens bracket ice armor close black lens bracket on the ice giant just in case. A glimmer of cruel light flickered in Ifrit's eyes. He raised his hands slightly, and surging magic power began to gather continuously. Rise! As the crisp and cold shout sounded, the temperature inside the light Jiao rose sharply, as if the magma from the earth was gushing out. The scorching aura spread, making it difficult to breathe. Granstead, why do I feel like this skill looks a little familiar? Rimuru, who was on the side, looked at the movement in front of him, turned his head, and said softly to Granstead. Granstead rolled his eyes unhappily, glanced at Rimuru, and replied angrily. Isn't this the flame pillar you just ate? I thought it was some powerful skill, but it's just an enhanced version. Ah, this. Hearing Granstead's words, Rimuru was stunned, and then an embarrassed smile appeared on his face. Sure enough, the next moment, an extremely thick flame pillar rose into the sky again, like a sharp sword, directly piercing through the dark clouds in the sky, forming a huge hole. The terrifying power made people palpitate. Hee. The power is good, but... Granstead also shook his head, standing in the middle of the giant flame pillar, looking at Ifrit with a calm expression. Even Rimuru was staring at Ifrit with malicious eyes. The field suddenly became extremely silent, as if time had stopped flowing. Looking at Ifrit's astonished look, it was obvious that he really didn't know that there was such a perverted characteristic as open black lens bracket thermal fluctuation resistance close black lens bracket in the world. Ifrit was really stunned this time, his heart filled with doubts and incomprehension. He couldn't understand why his such a powerful attack had no effect on the other party. Even a demon lord wouldn't dare to take his attack head-on so easily. But why were these two people in front of him as if nothing had happened? Granstead didn't care about Ifrit's expression, but instead turned his head and asked Rimuru with a hint of shishui smile. Rimuru, can you still use your predator? Rimuru was slightly stunned, obviously not expecting Granstead to ask such a question suddenly. However, he quickly reacted, a Jiao Sha look flashed in his eyes, and then he replied confidently. Do you want to? Hee, no problem, then watch my performance. After saying that, Rimuru's body began to gradually soften, and his originally small body instantly swelled up. He opened a huge mouth, which could almost swallow the entire world. Along with Rimuru's actions, a powerful magic power surged from his body. Around him, a huge magic vortex was directly formed, continuously attracting the surrounding flame magic power. Under the guidance of the magic circle, these flame magic powers gathered into Rimuru's mouth like a torrent, and were swallowed into his stomach without hesitation. So the giant magic circle on the ground flickered with a faint light, as if it was sending out a distress signal, reminding its owner that the magic power it contained had begun to be insufficient. At this time, Rimuru finally stopped his movements. His stomach was bulging round, just like a balloon filled with air. I saw a flash of blue light on his body, and then he returned to his original appearance. Granstead. I really can't eat anymore. I can't digest it a little. Rimuru said with difficulty while burping. Granstead looked at Rimuru who had swallowed most of the flame magic power, and nodded in satisfaction. He knew that Rimuru's magic power would definitely increase significantly in the near future. This ability is really enviable. After all, these are real magic powers, and Rimuru can directly devour them with Predator and convert these flame magic powers into his own magic power for storage. Well, then it's my turn. Granstead's eyes stared at the remaining flame magic power around him, and he couldn't help but feel a little wanshi in his heart. But he didn't say much nonsense, but instead activated his skill in his mouth. Open black lens bracket extreme cold domain close black lens bracket. As Granstead's voice fell, a bone-piercing cold wind suddenly blew around. The cold aura quickly spread, colliding and intertwining with the remaining flame magic power. For a time, the entire space was shrouded in the fierce confrontation between ice and fire. The space around Granstead directly turned into ice blue. Originally, this was a very terrifying high temperature, but now the temperature dropped sharply to zero. The scorching flames were gradually calmed down, and the air was replaced by an ice-blue domineering magic power. Even the ice giant's aura became stronger under the extreme cold domain. The space battlefield was instantly covered by ice and snow, and even the flames on Ifrit's body seemed to be extinguished. Ifrit stared blankly at Granstar, who was wearing a blue robe, and his body began to slowly condense with a layer of frost. And in his eyes, there was even a hint of Jiatuo flashing. At this moment, Miss Jingjiang's consciousness began to recover. Granstar didn't stop, took out the ice blue Yaoyi ice ghost long sword, and waved it at Ifrit's position. Open black lens bracket ice crack cut close black lens bracket. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 45 Ending. The ice blue light silently pierced through Ifrit's body, the vitality in his eyes gradually fading away. Is it over? Rimuru murmured. Ifrit's body, like a tattered kite, fell to the ground. Notice. Host has killed the Demon Lord level Ifrit, Predator skill activated successfully. Host has obtained the skills Flame Transformation Hell Array Incarnation of Flame Demon Flame. Notice. Lord of Ice trait is interfering, causing skill mutation. Mutation successful. Skill conversion initiated. Extreme Frost Hell Array Incarnation of Ice Ice Flower. S-rank material detected near the host. Extract now. Granstar didn't even need to think, immediately confirming the extraction. Extraction successful. Notice. Host has obtained S-rank rare material, Flame Demon Heart. Granstar looked at these materials lying quietly in the material storage, the corners of his mouth almost reaching his ears. Rimuru, what are you spacing out for? Quickly devour Ifrit's body. Oh. Rimuru moved to the location where Ifrit was lying and directly activated the skill. Predator activated. Inside a room, a tranquil and oppressive atmosphere permeated the air. Miss Shizu lay quietly on the bed, as if she had lost her vitality, her breath so weak it was almost imperceptible. She laboriously opened her eyes, her gaze dazed and confused. Rimuru had just devoured Ifrit, originally thinking that Miss Shizu would completely recover as a result, but the reality was not so. Great Sage, why is it that we've already defeated Ifrit, but Miss Shizu is still? Rimuru anxiously called out to his unique skill, Great Sage, in his heart. After a moment, a familiar voice responded. Analyzing. Analysis successful. Then, Great Sage began to explain. Notice. Due to Miss Shizu's previous parasitic relationship with Ifrit, her bodily functions have also been frozen in time. However, with the disappearance of the parasitic entity, Rimuru quietly listened to the explanation given by Great Sage, the expression on his face gradually becoming blank. He clearly hadn't anticipated this situation, and for a moment, he became somewhat at a loss. And Shizu quietly lay on the bed, her mind involuntarily starting to drift into memories. In the beginning, the place where she originally was not this world. To be precise, she was a summoner. When another world was on the verge of destruction, she encountered the summoning of the Platinum Demon Lord. That demon who claimed the name of Platinum, Leon Cromwell. Leon granted her new life, but as a condition of exchange, she had to coexist with the flame demon Ifrit. From then on, she was like a puppet who had lost her emotions, at the mercy of the demon lord. Years flowed by, until one day, a figure appeared out of nowhere and rescued her at that time. This person was the hero of time and space. She still remembered that she was abandoned by the demon lord in the castle, but this hero did not kill her, but patiently listened to her tell her past experiences. This hero was so gentle and powerful, not only giving her the anti-magic mask to suppress the Ifrit inside her. From then on, she had been following the hero, subjugating monsters while integrating herself into a normal life. But one day even the hero left her, but she still lived as usual. But decades had passed, and she had also subjugated many monsters, and also had the heroic title of Explosive Flame Dominator. Her appearance may be because of the parasitic relationship with the flame demon Ifrit, and has remained unchanged. After retiring, she also worked as a teacher in a school, and met many children who had similar experiences to her. Well, there are two children she taught who she is particularly worried about. Their personalities are completely different, and now they have become adults, but the other one. Mr. Rimuru and Mr. Granstar, I know, you may both be from another world. Can I ask you to do me one last favor? Shizu finally spoke at this time, her voice was very weak, as if it would dissipate at any time. Granstar and Rimuru both looked at Miss Shizu in surprise. They didn't expect that at this critical moment of her life, she still had a request. Okay, Miss Shizu, tell us. A trace of complexity was revealed in Rimuru's eyes. He stared at the beautiful woman lying on the bed, and a strange emotion surged in his heart. I'm still a little worried about those children. I hope you can help take care of them. Shizu said each word with difficulty, and then cast her gaze straight at the ceiling, her eyes empty and dull, as if recalling something. At this moment, a crystal tear slid down the corner of her eye. It was a tear of relief and release. Actually, I always wanted to find that man and ask him in person why. Maybe, I just wanted to get his approval at the last moment. Shizu's words were full of sorrow and unwillingness, but even more so, a deep sense of helplessness. The Platinum Demon Lord, one of the strongest demon lords. After hearing Miss Shizu's words, Granstar couldn't help but lower his head and fall into contemplation. I hate this world, but I can't hate it. Shizu's voice became lighter and lighter, like a candle in the wind, which could be extinguished at any time. After Shizu scanned everyone, she finally cast her gentle eyes on Rimuru. She also didn't understand why she had such a strong sense of closeness to the person in front of her, but this feeling was real. Mr. Rimuru, I really don't want to be swallowed by this cruel and ruthless world. Please allow me to sleep forever in your body. Just like you devoured Ifrit at the beginning, can you? This is already my only wish in this life. Hearing this, Rimuru looked at Miss Shizu with a shocked expression, secretly saddened in his heart. Could it be that this person destined to be with me is about to leave me? Miss Shizu, Rimuru stopped talking, his throat felt as if it was blocked by something. At this time, Miss Shizu stared at Rimuru with pleading eyes, and said softly, "Please." Faced with such a request, Rimuru seemed to have finally made up his mind. He slowly lowered his head, and then nodded heavily, indicating his agreement. I promise you. Although Rimuru's voice was not loud, it carried a firm and unwavering power. Chapter 46 Anthropomorphic Form. In Gulanta's magic perception, Miss Shizu's life force had already completely dissipated, and her once dark and lustrous hair had now become gray and dull. Announcement. Raider activation successful. Acquired rare skill, Changer. Suddenly, the Overlord voice echoed in Gulanta's mind. This time, Gulanta was genuinely surprised. This could also be successfully plundered. He couldn't help but wonder. Perhaps it was because he personally ended Ifrit, indirectly leading to Miss Shizu's departure, that the raider's skill was judged as successful. However, Gulanta didn't think too much about these things. His attention was entirely focused on Rimuru. At this moment, Rimuru was staring blankly at the lifeless Miss Shizu, feeling an emptiness in his heart. Gulanta watched Rimuru with concern, knowing that Miss Shizu's death was a reincarnation that Rimuru had to experience. Gulanta didn't know how to comfort this little guy who had lost someone important, and could only silently stay by his side. Rimuru, Miss Shizu was truly an admirable adventurer. The decades of her life afterward were very exciting. Gulanta gently patted Rimuru's unresponsive body. Rimuru's voice sounded somewhat low. But at least, I must fulfill Miss Shizu's last wish. Rimuru's eyes gradually became firm. Predator activated. As Rimuru's voice fell, a ball of blue liquid quickly emerged, tightly enveloping Miss Shizu's body. In this way, let Rimuru take Miss Shizu away from this world, and let her sleep forever within his body. Announcement, predation successful. Host has acquired a new skill, humanoid form. Along with the system's prompt, Rimuru's body suddenly flashed with a dazzling blue light. In a short moment, a completely new humanoid figure appeared before Gulanta's eyes. This figure, whether in appearance or figure, was exactly like Miss Shizu, except that the color of the pupils and hair were the same as Gulanta's, showing a deep blue color. Now, Rimuru finally had a humanoid body like Gulanta, and also had the benefit of taste to enjoy food. But since Rimuru wasn't wearing anything right now, Gulanta immediately prepared a robe to put on him. He then noticed a teardrop sliding down the corner of Rimuru's eye, and sighed softly. Gulanta, have you noticed that since your last evolution, the part of your emotions that originally belonged to a human has become increasingly weaker? Gulanta stared into Rimuru's eyes for a long time. Rimuru, we are no longer human, we can't think from a human perspective. But, Gulanta directly interrupted what Rimuru was about to say. There's no, but, about it. What's wrong with us being monsters? I just want to do what I want to do. Rimuru, don't you also have ideals? Rimuru regained his spirits, and his eyes seemed to light up again. You're right, Gulanta. We all have our own ideals, and mine is to build a country composed of monsters. Gulanta, this country will be built together with you, so don't be lazy. Haven't I always been helping? Gulanta and Rimuru looked at each other, and smiles appeared on their faces. Outside the door, Miss Shizu, we've all come to see you. Yes, we're here to say goodbye, thank you for taking care of us along the way. Hey, wait a moment, the two adults are still inside. Rigard, who was guarding outside, couldn't stop these three people. Huh, where's Miss Shizu? Gulenta looked at the trio who broke in with some surprise. Why haven't they improved at all, still so rash? 3. The three of them then noticed a person next to them who looked exactly like Miss Shizu, but was also a little different, and their eyes widened. What's going on? Rimuru looked at these three people who had adventured with Gulenta and Miss Shizu, and found it a little funny. Miss Shizu has passed away, she. After listening to Rimuru's explanation, the three people's eyes filled with tears, and both grown men were already in tears. Miss Shizu, we didn't expect this to be the result. When I think about how much care Miss Shizu has given us along the way, I didn't expect Miss Shizu's last wish to be like this. Gulenta looked at the three of them with a headache. Ever since he met them last time, Gulenta hadn't had a moment of peace, and he even carried him all the way to escape. Just as he was about to go out for some peace and quiet, a figure stood in front of him, with tears still not wiped from the corners of his eyes. You really are, that little elf. Gulenta looked at this girl with some surprise. Ellen's face was already red to the roots of her ears, and she looked shyly at the overly handsome elf in front of her. Gulenta originally wanted to just explain it casually and leave, but his mind couldn't help but recall what Rimuru had just said to him. Gulenta, since you evolved, the part of your emotions that originally belonged to a human has become increasingly weaker. Gulenta shook his head and jokingly said to the girl who was a little embarrassed to look at him. I said before, I'm very powerful, so you won't want to pinch my face again, right? Ellen also covered her mouth and chuckled when she heard these words. On a distant peak, Gulenta and Rimuru stood side by side, looking at the small pile of stones in front of them. Let's bury Shizu here. I hope she can see the changes in our village from here. I will definitely fulfill that ideal. Rimuru didn't look at the location where Miss Shizu was buried, but instead looked into the distance at the village they had built. Gulenta, tell me about that platinum demon Lord Leon Cromwell, the man who brought Miss Shizu to this world. Rimuru's tone was very calm. That human demon lord who is said to be one of the strongest demon lords. Rimuru, have you really decided? He's very strong. Gulenta didn't actually know much, but it was undeniable how strong a man who ascended to the demon lord position with a human body was. Even if he's strong, I'll still punch him in the face twice. Rimuru clenched his fists a little unconvinced. One of the strongest demon lords. The depths of Gulenta's eyes turned icy, and the ice-blue pupils flickered with cold light. He also wanted to see it. Chapter 47 Ice Guard. It's such a pity that we didn't get to see Miss Shizu one last time. Ailing's eyes were still red. Especially me, I caused so much trouble along the way, and it was all thanks to Miss Shizu, but now she. Kabaru revealed a lonely expression, his heart unable to conceal the sadness. Alright, we need to cheer up. Kabaru immediately composed himself, after all, he was the leader of this team. We've been away from the kingdom for a long time, it's time to go back and report. Without Miss Shizu, can't we go back? Miss Shizu wouldn't want to see us like this either. Hearing the leader say this, they composed themselves. Are you going back? Rimuru walked over in human form at this moment. Yes, we're going back to report on our work. Kabaru nodded. It wasn't good to freeload here all the time, even though the food here was delicious. Take these with you, the farewell gifts I gave you last time. Kabaru took the few bottles of potions Rimuru handed over, and was pleasantly surprised by these few bottles of potions. You should know that the injuries they had previously suffered were all thanks to these potions. Rimuru was also very generous, giving a total of 20 bottles of recovery potion, and 10 bottles of magic potion. Rimuru also made a request at this time, as the saying goes, he who receives a gift is bound to comply. Actually, Granstar and I would like to visit your kingdom city when we have time, so when you report. Kabaru immediately understood. Don't worry, when I report to the minister, I will introduce you properly. I'll make sure there won't be any problems when you come. Rimuru smiled, not knowing why this unreliable Kabaru was so on the ball when it came to this matter. Lord Granstar, will you be coming too? Be sure to let me know when you do. Ailing walked forward at this time, standing in front of Granstar with a happy look in her eyes. Rimuru looked at the two of them from the side, especially the way he looked at Granstar, with a playful expression. Granstar also saw the look in Ailing's eyes that was a little strange. Could it be? Granstar's heart cried out badly, especially seeing the look in Rimuru's eyes at this time, how piercing that gaze was. Yes, I'll go, we'll see when the time comes. He said vaguely. After all, they still had a mission to report back, and it was time to say goodbye. Under Ailing's reluctant gaze, she still looked back at Granstar from time to time, and was finally dragged away by two teammates. Rimuru nudged Granstar, looking at this somewhat heartless guy with some disappointment. Hey, Granstar, what a pity. What a lovely girl, why don't you try to keep her? A slightly mischievous voice sounded in Granstar's ear. Granstar looked at the mischievous Rimuru speechlessly, raised his hand and knocked a big bump on his head. Rimuru, what are you talking about? Humans only have a few years to live. It seems like you've been getting carried away lately. HMPH, Granstar, don't think you can bully me now, I've become stronger, take this. Oh, really, it seems like you're really getting carried away. A moment later. Granstar, don't hit my head. And don't pinch my face. Who did you learn that from? I was wrong. Langa and the surrounding goblins lowered their heads very tactfully, pretending they didn't see anything. Outside the goblin village, a tall snow mountain had appeared at some point. It was covered in white snow, with ice crystals covering it. Countless frost wolves were jumping and playing happily on it. At this time, Rimuru and Granstar were flying in the high sky, their eyes staring with some annoyance at the huge iceberg below. Granstar, what are you planning to do with your summoned ice giant? Can't you just send it back to where it came from? Rimuru frowned and asked. Granstar looked at the behemoth in front of him and shook his head helplessly. It's not that simple. After the last battle, I originally thought that as the magic circle dissipated, the ice giant would disappear with it. But who would have thought that it would keep following me and not disappear? As long as Granstar stayed in the village, it would quietly lie outside the village, but whenever he wanted to go out to hunt monsters, this guy would follow closely, and no amount of driving away would help. I think it seems to have A+ level strength. If there's really no way, why don't you just subdue it and use it as your mount? It's just that it doesn't seem to have much intelligence. Rimuru suggested. Granstar shook his head without even thinking. He was going to ride an ice dragon to the end of the world in the future. It was a joke to get a big lump as a mount now. Then we can't just leave it alone. Rimuru looked at Granstar's disgusted look and joked. Why don't you give it a name, so it can understand what we're saying? Granstar's eyes lit up. That's right, he hadn't named his subordinates yet. The ice giant in front of him also had A+ level strength, and its strength should skyrocket after being named. Reaching the demon lord level was not impossible. I think your idea is feasible. You're serious? Rimuru was a little surprised. Weren't you looking disgusted just now? Granstar flew to the front of the ice giant like a shooting star. The ice giant felt the arrival of its master, and its body, which was originally lying on the ground, slowly stood up. The frost-covered wolves on its body seemed to understand human nature and ran to the side, looking around curiously. Granstar gently placed one hand on the ice giant's forehead, and his low and majestic voice sounded. Today, I bestow upon you the name, Ice Guardian. At the same time, I bestow upon you the title of Guardian King. As soon as he finished speaking, the Ice Guardian's body paused slightly, as if it was suppressed by an invisible force. It instinctively knelt on one knee, its head lowered, expressing its absolute obedience and respect to Granstar. Thank you, my master. Ice Guardian will follow you for life. The Ice Guardian struggled to express its loyalty to its master in its still unskilled language. Although its voice was jerky, the belief contained in it was extremely firm. A moment later, the Ice Guardian's body suddenly burst out with an extremely terrifying magic power. This magic power was like a surging wave, sweeping in, and even the clouds in the sky were stirred to form a giant blue lightning vortex. This amazing scene was announcing to all the monsters in this forest the birth of a monster with demon lord strength. Even the great ogres and lizardmen living in the Jura forest could feel it. The sky is about to change. Under the impact of this powerful magic power, the surrounding air became heavy, as if time had stopped. The Ice Guardian stood firmly in place like an unshakable mountain, exuding a palpitating aura. Chapter 48 The Guardian King. As Granstar's first subordinate possessing demon lord level strength, the magic power inherited by the Ice Guardian was undoubtedly terrifying. The reason he was named the Ice Guardian and granted the title, King of Guardians, was precisely because he was regarded as important as a defensive wall, becoming the first solid line of defense for the nation they were about to build. In reality, in terms of attack power alone, the Ice Guardian was not particularly outstanding among Demon Lord level beings. His primary means of attack relied more on his fearsome, immense strength. However, what Granstar valued most was the Ice Guardian's unparalleled defensive power and potent guardian abilities. When judging purely on defense and the ability to withstand damage, the Ice Guardian was definitely one of the top demon lords. Wasn't there a saying, "Miracles can happen if you put all your skill points into defense"? Diamond suit. Granstar looked at the transformed Ice Guardian, a satisfied smile on his face, and nodded slightly. Wow, Granstar, you actually have a demon lord level subordinate now. I'm so envious. Rimuru exclaimed from the side. What's there to envy? Considering Ronga's potential, he'll evolve into a high-rank frost-chasing star wolf sooner or later. And he'll be a dual-attribute ice and wind monster. Granstar replied with a smile. Isn't that enough to make you happy? Granstar shook his head helplessly. He was truly speechless when it came to Rimuru. He clearly had a subordinate with such immense potential by his side, yet he didn't cultivate him properly and instead envied Granstar's Ice Guardian. You're right. It seems I need to pay more attention to Ronga in the future and strive to have him evolve into a high rank as soon as possible. Rimuru scratched his head and chuckled awkwardly. Ronga's high-rank form, the frost-chasing star wolf, was a completely new dual-attribute species in the world of the Slime Diaries. Its potential was simply immeasurable. Once successfully advanced, he would undoubtedly become a powerful demon lord-level force. Thinking of this, both Granstar and Rimuru couldn't help but look forward to it. If they could truly have that opportunity, perhaps he could successfully evolve into a wolf king among the high-rank species. At that time, he might even be able to be compared to the awakened demon lords. After all, he would be the frost-chasing star wolf king. Granstar couldn't help but feel a little envious of Rimuru. After all, who wouldn't like something like dual attributes? In any case, Granstar now had his own goal in mind. When that time came, Rimuru, don't blame me. Granstar, where do you plan to put the Ice Guardian? He's like a moving castle. Rimuru was a little curious about Granstar's plans. I originally intended for the Ice Guardian to become the village's guardian. Let him stay outside the village normally. It seems these frost wolves like the Ice Guardian quite a bit. Rimuru followed Granstar's gaze and saw that the group of frost wolves had indeed surrounded the Ice Guardian, and one even jumped up excitedly, as if settling on a snow-covered mountain. All right, that's all we can do for now. We'll arrange for the Ice Guardian again when we establish the capital city. Yeah, Granstar nodded in agreement. A new chapter is about to begin. Rimuru's information panel. Race, slime, humanoid. Blessing, crest of the storm. Title, ruler of monsters. Magic, ice spear, water blade. Unique skills, absorb, self-regeneration, dissolve. Special skills, great sage, degenerate, predator. X skills, heat manipulation, magic power perception, water manipulation. Acquired skills, poison mist breath, heat source detection, paralysis breath, steel thread, sticky thread, ultrasonic wave, body armor, black intimidation, shadow movement, black lightning flash, telepathy, super olfaction. Resistance, pain nullification, electrical resistance, thermal fluctuation resistance, physical attack resistance, paralysis resistance. Granstar's information panel. Granstar Tempest. Race, ice spirit non-corporeal. Blessing, crest of the storm. Title, strongest ruler of monsters. Magic, ice thorns, ice burst, ice giant, frost breath, frozen domain. Unique skills, flight, free size. Special skills, dominator, plunderer, degenerate. Acquired skills, ice armor, full body armament, ice wall. Resistance and characteristics, ice master, rare trait, heat attack nullification, pain nullification, electrical resistance, thermal fluctuation resistance, physical attack resistance, paralysis resistance, etc. Too many, I'm getting numb, only wrote some. After getting degenerate, the skills will no longer be organized. Using the special skill, degenerate can derive all kinds of branch skills. Granstar, trust me, let's build a hot spring first. I haven't enjoyed soaking in a bath for a long time. Rimuru shouted loudly, looking at Granstar with pleading eyes. No way, that can be put off until later. I suggest building a tavern first, so we can attract adventurers from surrounding countries. Granstar retorted, his expression firm, bath or no bath, get to the side. What do you need to attract these adventurers for? Let's just build a hot spring. Rimuru didn't understand Granstar's intentions and insisted on his own idea. I don't care about these adventurers. What I care about is opening up roads to these countries first, laying the foundation for our future nation building and trade with these countries. Granstar explained, his eyes gleaming with wisdom. Huh, I don't understand. I don't care, I want a hot spring. Rimuru acted childishly, crossing his arms and looking stubborn. Granstar looked at Rimuru helplessly, and the others looked at each other, not knowing how to resolve this disagreement. Just then, Rigurd stood up and said respectfully to the two lords. Actually, we can build both together. With our current manpower, it's entirely sufficient. Hearing Rigurd's words, Granstar and Rimuru looked at him simultaneously, their gazes sharp, making Rigurd feel a little nervous, and fine beads of sweat began to appear on his forehead. Are you sure? Have you finished all the construction you guys were doing before? Can you still spare manpower? Rimuru was a little doubtful. Lord Rimuru, Granstar gave the construction team a technical blueprint last time, and the speed of the current construction project has at least increased several times. It will be completed in the next few days. Oh, so it's Granstar's contribution. Granstar didn't expect the third dwarf to learn the technical blueprint so quickly and apply it to the construction project. As expected, dwarves are the best technicians besides the elves. With the help of advanced construction technology, the goblin village is developing rapidly, and it looks more and more like a city. Chapter 49 The Birth of the Pig-Headed Emperor. A natural disaster struck, making life unbearable for the orcs. They had no food left, and even the trees around their territory had been gnawed bare. An orc watched as his fellow tribesmen fell one by one, the insatiable hunger in his belly leaving him utterly powerless. Who can save us? With this distant hope in his heart, the orc resolutely left his tribe. He would rather die far from home than stay and witness this tragedy. King, are you abandoning us? No, I've decided to go out and find a paradise where we can survive. The orc's face was filled with despair. King, we believe you can lead us out of this hell. We'll wait for your return. And so, he stepped onto the barren and desolate land outside. He walked and walked, not knowing how long it had been. He finally collapsed, unable to go on. Prolonged hunger had left him on the verge of death, as if he might breathe his last at any moment, ending his miserable journey. Just then, without a sound, a demon wearing a bizarre bird-like mask appeared here like a phantom. Ha ha, accompanied by a strange sound. The bird-masked demon stood there quietly, his gaze fixed on the weak and helpless orc on the ground. His eyes revealed an inscrutable and eerie smile. That smile seemed to hide countless unknown secrets and unfathomable conspiracies. Do you crave immense power? Do you truly wish to never again endure the cruel torment of hunger? I can grant you a name and flesh. The demon's low, yet seemingly all-penetrating voice echoed in the orc's mind as he lay on the ground. The voice seemed to possess a strange magic, able to directly penetrate the heart and bewitch the mind. With the greatest difficulty, the orc raised his heavy head, his eyes flashing with intense desire, so strong it seemed to pierce the endless darkness. In an extremely weak and fragmented voice, he replied, I want. Give me a name, and meat. The demon nodded slightly, the mysterious smile on his face becoming even more incomprehensible. He slowly took out a book exuding an ancient and mysterious aura from his bosom. Then, he began to chant a mysterious and lengthy incantation, the sound of which seemed to awaken something, carrying an ancient and mysterious rhythm. Next, the demon placed a hand on the orc's head, and a deep voice sounded. Clut, henceforth, that shall be your name. I will be like a father to you. As the incantation was chanted, a thick, ink-like darkness surged forth like a tide, slowly enveloping the orc. He took the large chunk of flesh handed over by the demon and devoured it ravenously. Afterward, enveloped by this dark power, the orc struggled in agony, his body convulsing and twisting uncontrollably, as if undergoing an extremely painful transformation. However, gradually, an astonishing change occurred. The orc's body gradually became stronger and stronger, and a pair of incomparably sharp fangs miraculously grew on his originally ordinary head. The fangs gleamed with a chilling light, as if they could easily tear apart anything that stood in his way. The skin on his body also became more and more resilient without him realizing it, as if he had put on an indestructible armor. The demon watched these changes in the orc before him, the smile on his lips blooming even more wantonly, his eyes full of satisfaction. Clut, from now on, you are the orc lord. You will lead your people to devour this vast forest, and spread your fame throughout the world. The demon's bewitching voice echoed constantly in Clut's mind, as if celebrating the birth of the orc lord. Yes, my master. Clut's eyes were filled with numbness and a scarlet desire to devour. In a desolate place, the bird-masked demon seemed to be waiting quietly for something. At this moment, two clowns dressed as clowns slowly walked from a distance, as if they had agreed to meet here. Klumet, is the ritual to awaken the Orc Lord complete? Hearing this, the bird-masked demon's eyes immediately flashed with an excited red light. Lord Laplace, haha, it has been successful. I didn't expect that such a special individual would be successfully awakened in that orc. Laplace and another slightly fat demon also showed surprise on their faces after hearing this. Klumet, you did a good job. In this way, the adults' plan will begin. It's best to let the Orc Lord devour all the races here and evolve into a Demon Lord species. Then let the Orc Lord unify the Jura forest, and then we can witness the birth of a Demon Lord. The eyes of the speaker kept flashing red. Klumet, remember to control this Orc Lord who is about to become a Demon Lord, otherwise it will be difficult to explain to your Lord if he gets out of control. When Klumet heard this, his whole body trembled violently, because he was like this when he heard that Lord. Yes, my Lord, I can guarantee that the Orc Lord will never escape my control. I'm just worried that with the Orc Lord's current strength, it will be a bit difficult to devour the Ogre clan and the Lizardman clan. And I have also scattered several named monsters in the forest, and then let them become the Orc Lord's nourishment for evolving into a Demon Lord species. When the two clown demons heard Klumet's words, their eyes also showed a thoughtful look. The strength of this Ogre clan is not low, so let them become the Orc Lord's nourishment first. You first organize the Orc army to attack, and we will send one person to deal with their leader. However, these orcs are, after all, D-level monsters, and we will also provide some weapons and equipment. But Klumet, we have paid so much, then, haha. When Klumet heard this, a flustered look appeared on his face, and he quickly bowed respectfully. I will truthfully report the contributions of the two adults to the adults. Laplace smiled strangely and said to them who were bowing respectfully. That's good. As for the named nutrients you mentioned, I will personally take a trip to ensure that the Orc Lord can successfully evolve into a Demon Lord species. With the help of two adults, the Demon Lord's plan will definitely be successfully completed this time, and then we can divide up this Jura forest. Hello, of course that's great. The gloomy laughter echoed constantly in this desolate land. Chapter 50, The Great Ghost Clan is Destroyed. Why have the magical beasts become so manic lately? Granstar waved his ice wraith longsword with a puzzled look. Swish, boom. The evil centipede in front of him was split into two sections, turned into an ice sculpture, and shattered on the ground, beyond dead. Alert! Successfully hunted AB grade evil centipede. Successfully activated predator. Material extraction successful ahead of schedule. Granstar ignored the overlord notification sound in his mind, instead looking suspiciously at the dozen or so evil centipedes slowly surrounding him. Strange, these magical beasts haven't run away, and even have the guts to surround me. Granstar muttered to himself, wondering what was going on today. Ice thorns activated. Everything around him turned into a field of ice thorns, instantly turning the scene into an ice hell, displaying an unusual beauty. It seems my magical power has increased quite a bit. The flames in the eyes of these evil centipedes gradually extinguished, and the overlord notification sound kept echoing in Granstar's mind. I need to go to the depths of the forest to see what happened. Could it be that thing? I need to confirm it. Granstar sheathed his ice wraith longsword and turned to walk in a direction within the forest. He vaguely remembered that there was a village of greater demons there when he hunted magical beasts before. Along the way, any magical beast that attacked him became nourishment for the ice wraith in his hand. The once peaceful greater demon village is now shrouded in raging fire and billowing smoke. The steel army of the pig-headed tribe surged in like a tide, their eyes gleaming with greed and madness. The elderly, weak, women, and children stay at home and don't come out. Greater demons with combat power, take up your weapons to protect the village, and chop up these pig heads with me. The villagers of the greater demon tribe fought back valiantly, but facing the numerous and powerful pig-headed tribe, they gradually fell into despair. The pig-headed tribe's attacks were merciless. They swung their thick arms and weapons, razing the houses and buildings of the greater demon village to the ground. The villagers' screams and the pig-headed tribe's roars intertwined, playing a symphony of destruction. The warriors of the greater demon tribe were brave, but in the face of the pig-headed tribe's absolute numerical advantage, their resistance seemed so weak. Moreover, their greater demon chieftain had just been killed by a pig-headed man and a masked demon man. Quick, take the young master and princess away. Our chieftain has died in battle, we can't let it. No, I am a warrior of the greater demon tribe, I will fight to the death with my father until the very end. The rest of you, follow me and kill. The red-haired greater demon, known as the young master, picked up a great sword covered in flames and roared at the remaining tribesmen. He charged into the pig-headed soldiers, killing one with each strike, and an astonishing wave of flames swept out. Two greater demons, one with black hair and the other with white hair, moved like ghosts beside the young master, and with a flash of their figures, a pig-headed soldier would fall to the ground, beheaded. Sow! Roar! Ah! In this desperate moment, the young master of the greater demon tribe led the remaining tribesmen in a final resistance. Their hearts were filled with anger and unwillingness, but facing the powerful and numerous pig-headed tribe, the situation began to become one-sided. The pig-headed tribe's army was like a tide, impossible to wipe out, and their magical power was drying up. These pig-headed tribe are a bit strange. We can't hold them back. Young master, you and the princess must leave. Quickly take the young masters away, we'll hold them back. And just then, a masked demon man and a pig-headed man with a terrifying aura attacked. These resisting greater demons were ruthlessly slaughtered one by one, blood and flames intertwined, covering every corner of the village. The pig-headed tribe's army ravaged every inch of the greater demon village, slaughtering wantonly. My tribesmen! The red-haired greater demon's eyes were bloodshot and covered with veins, as he stared in disbelief at the scene before him, his body trembling uncontrollably. How could these pig-headed tribe have such sturdy armor? Why was the difference in their strength so great? Young master, hurry up and leave. You and the princess are the hope of our village. Go. This word seemed to roar from the depths of his throat, filled with endless grief and determination. The once prosperous village had now been reduced to ruins, a scene of devastation, with the smell of blood permeating everywhere, and scattered broken remains. He led the few remaining tribesmen away not far, but every step seemed incredibly heavy. Brother. A pink-haired greater demon supported her brother, her eyes revealing deep sorrow, as if she had lost all hope. Cough cough. Young master, princess, those hateful pig-headed tribe are catching up again. The young master looked back and saw hundreds of fully armed pig-headed tribe soldiers chasing after them with sharp weapons and a fierce aura. Their footsteps trampled the ground, making a dull sound, as if the entire ground was shaking. Fortunately, the masked demon man and the leading pig-headed man did not chase after them together. This made the young master feel a slight relief in his heart, but also a sense of powerlessness. He glanced at the few remaining tribesmen beside him, especially when his eyes met the deep sadness in his sister's eyes, and a bitter smile could not help but appear on the corner of his mouth. The once powerful greater demon tribe now had only a few people left, and they were facing the crisis of being exterminated. Our magical power is almost exhausted. I never thought that our greater demon tribe would have a day when we would be exterminated by these pig-headed tribe. Full of sadness and deep hatred intertwined, if he could be stronger, if he could protect his tribesmen. But the reality was so cruel, he could only watch his tribesmen fall one by one, and he was powerless. We are ready to sacrifice. Young master, take the princess and leave. An old greater demon with white hair and wrinkles all over his face said with a chaotic and unstable aura. His voice trembled, but his tone was full of determination. The other three greater demon tribe warriors standing aside, although they all had varying degrees of injuries, also stared at their young master with firm and resolute eyes. You. The young master's throat choked, and tears flickered in his eyes. He wanted to say something, but found that his language had become so pale and weak at this moment. However, time was running out, and they could not hesitate any longer. The four greater demon tribe fearlessly rushed into the surging pig-headed tribe soldier camp. They wielded the weapons in their hands and engaged in a final battle with the enemy. And just then, the surrounding temperature began to drop sharply, and snowflakes began to fall in the sky. A blurry figure in a blue robe was slowly approaching the battlefield. Brother, look, what is that? She covered her mouth in shock, pointing in a direction. The red-haired young master followed her gaze, and when he saw a slender figure with long blue hair, the pupils in his eyes could not help but shrink. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 51 Plea. Open black lens bracket absolute zero close black lens bracket activate. Accompanied by Gulanta's soft chant, an invisible wave of cold air swept out from his body, rapidly spreading outwards. The temperature in this area seemed to plummet instantly as if into an ice cellar, dropping sharply until it reached the borderline of absolute zero. Looking at the battlefield covered in ice and snow before him, Gulanta couldn't help but sigh. Alas, I didn't expect to be one step too late. The great Oni clan has already been wiped out, leaving only these 6 survivors. In fact, Gulanta had long planned to subdue the entire great Oni clan. However, he was not omnipotent. Even though he foresaw that this clan would face a calamity, he couldn't know the exact time. Moreover, it was impossible for him to constantly guard near the great Oni clan and appear immediately whenever there was danger. Such an idea was clearly unrealistic. No matter what, these 6 remaining seedlings must be preserved. Gulinta stared intently at the battlefield, secretly resolving in his heart. Without even getting close, he unhesitatingly activated Absolute Zero. In an instant, the surrounding climate underwent a drastic change. The moisture in the air directly condensed into frost, and fluttering snowflakes fell down. What's going on? Why is it snowing? The 4 great Oni clansmen who were already on the verge of collapse in the battlefield were instantly stunned in place, looking at each other blankly with expressions of astonishment and confusion. What's going on? One of the great Oni clansmen with a purple ponytail muttered to himself. They could see hundreds of pig-head soldiers on the opposite side maintaining a strange posture, as if frozen in place. Starting from their feet, a layer of frost gradually climbed up their bodies, completely enveloping them. This was a state of ice sealing, and the aura of these pig-head soldiers was clearly weakening, as if the flame of life was dying out. The eyes of these great Oni clansmen became incomparably horrified at this moment. They couldn't understand everything that was happening before them. In fact, the range of Gulinta's Absolute Zero had also been greatly improved, and even the temperature could be continuously reduced to 50 degrees below zero. This Absolute Zero plunged the entire battlefield into icy silence, with only the sound of frost condensing echoing in the air. However, right in the middle of this brother and sister's horrified gaze, Gulinta's figure was slowly approaching them. Gulp. The young master of the red-haired great Oni clan subconsciously stood in front of his sister, but his throat rolled uncontrollably. There was clearly still a long distance between them. But what exactly was going on with that person on the other side? In just a few steps, he had already arrived in front of him. Gulinta curiously sized up the burly red-haired great Oni clan member in front of him, while also noticing the pink little Oni hiding behind him, cautiously poking her head out to peek at him. Looking at their nervous appearance, Gulinta couldn't help but wonder. Is my face really that stern and scary? So, Gulinta friendly extended a hand towards them and asked. Do you need help? The red-haired great Oni immediately realized how terrifying the strength of the person standing in front of him was, and that his body was constantly emitting a magical aura like an abyss. A thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Could I ask him to help our great Oni clan take revenge? And the emergence of this idea stemmed from the terrifying scene when Gulinta had just taken action. Just at this moment, the 4 clan elders who had rushed out earlier suddenly returned. Young master, princess, are you all right? They asked with concern while quickly gathering around and staring at Gulinta with wary eyes. Could it be that the person who just took action was this mysterious demon? That's not right, he's actually an elf. Only then did they suddenly realize that Gulinta standing in front of them not only possessed an extremely outstanding appearance but also displayed obvious elven features. Facing everyone's gaze, Gulinta appeared calm and composed. He nonchalantly retracted his hand and then carefully sized up the people opposite him with great interest. The characters from the original work have all arrived before him. Gulinta had a different feeling. No, he clearly wanted to intercept them. Esteemed powerhouse, can you help us take revenge? The young master of the red-haired great Oni clan went straight to Gulinta and knelt down on one knee without hesitation. His body was constantly trembling, as if enduring great pain and struggle. Young master, brother. However, Gulinta did not speak again but quietly watched the great Oni clan's young master kneeling on the ground. The young master's body trembled even more violently. He raised his head and stared intently into Gulinta's eyes. Please help us. He shouted this sentence again, but his voice became somewhat hoarse. He knew very well that with his current strength, he would never be able to avenge this clan-destroying hatred, but he had to avenge this blood feud. And at this moment, there was such a possible opportunity in front of him. He didn't want to miss it no matter what, even if it meant giving up his dignity and kneeling down to beg. Gulinta quietly watched the figure of this great Oni clan member before him. His gaze gradually became extremely complex, but within it, there was clearly a deep appreciation. It should be known that the great Oni clan was a high-ranking race in the Juru Great Forest, let alone the person in front of him was the young master of the great Oni clan, and the self-esteem he held in his heart must be immense. However, after experiencing such a thing, he had grown a lot and was able to put down that arrogant self-esteem and willingly bow his head to the strong. Gulinta did not let him continue kneeling all the time but stepped forward to gently lift up this young master, and then said with a calm expression. I can help you with revenge, but I have a condition. The young master of the great Oni clan's eyes flickered with hesitation, and even the eyes of the clan members around him became dim, as if they had lost their brilliance. After a long period of thought, the young master in front of him finally met Gulanta's gaze again. I can promise you, please, sir. However, before he could finish saying this sentence, Gulanta had already waved his hand to interrupt him. Take me to your village to have a good look. The other members of the great Oni clan were stunned when they heard this. For a moment, they seemed unable to react. Chapter 52 Ice Hell. The group arrived at the Great Goblin Village. Raging flames engulfed the entire Great Goblin Village, every spot relentlessly scorched by the fire, leaving behind shocking traces. However, what was even more terrifying was that the pighead race was frantically devouring the corpses of the great goblins, even cannibalizing their own kin without hesitation. This bloody and cruel scene was horrifying, as if they were in the depths of hell. Ah, you damned pighead people! The red-haired great goblin's eyes widened, filled with anger and hatred, his gaze as fiery as the flames, staring fixedly at the pighead people devouring their own kind. Even the pink little goblin standing beside him couldn't bear such a tragic sight and couldn't help but close his eyes, his heart filled with lament. Gulanster quietly watched the scene before him, his brow furrowing slightly, revealing a hint of worry. As expected, it's the pighead emperor's special skill, starving one. This is a bit troublesome. It seems that what I was worried about has still happened. I must convey this news to Rimuru as soon as possible so that the village can be prepared. Gulanster concentrated his mind and used magic to sense the surrounding situation. However, to his disappointment, the two murderers who killed the great goblin chieftain had already disappeared without a trace. He couldn't help but feel a little regretful. If he could find the demon behind the scenes, he could warn the demon king behind him. To make him interfere less in the affairs of the Jura forest, and if that didn't work, he could use force to deter him. After all, this world usually judges right and wrong by the strength of one's power. Gulanster naturally wouldn't stand idly by and watch these great goblin corpses being devoured at will. So, he took action. A streak of ice-blue magic began to spread outwards from the ground beneath Gulanster's feet. Wherever the magic reached, everything was frozen. The raging flames instantly extinguished, but the pighead people who were frantically devouring the corpses seemed completely unaware and remained motionless. Some pighead people noticed the anomaly, picked up their weapons, and rushed towards Gulanster's direction. However, they hadn't gone far when their feet were entangled by ice thorns. These ice thorns, like maggots attached to bones, quickly spread up their bodies, eventually turning them into lifelike ice sculptures. Crack, crack, freezing sounds echoed everywhere, and not even a scream could be heard. The flames of life of thousands of pighead soldiers were thus extinguished. Successfully hunted pighead person N, Raider activated successfully. Gained charge attack, fur enhancement. Material extraction. Successfully obtained C-grade material Tusk N. The skill synthesized with Corruptor is quite useful. Gulanster looked at the scene before him, his heart filled with a burst of surprise. These C-grade monsters weren't worthy of him drawing his sword, so he could just use them to test his new skills. He looked satisfied at the effect of his newly cast skill, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise slightly. This powerful and unique skill was Gulanster's masterpiece, created by fusing Extreme Cold Domain and Ice Thorns and with the help of Corruptor's power. It was called Ice Thorns Hell. With just one skill, he easily took the lives of thousands of monsters. This area instantly turned into an icy hellish scene, making one's hair stand on end. Gulp, gulp. 6 sounds of swallowing saliva came in succession. The 6 great goblins behind Gulanster swallowed hard, their eyes fixed on the back of the man in front of them, especially the slightly raised corners of his mouth. Was this the true powerhouse? The icy and snowy, hell-like scene before them brought them an unprecedented visual impact. Just looking at Gulanster's back gave them a feeling of irresistible force, as if they were facing a cold and terrifying demon king. Thank you, Lord, for helping us kill all these pighead people. I represent the great goblin race in thanking you for your help. The red-haired young master walked up to Gulanster, bowed and thanked him, and the others followed suit. Their expressions became much more respectful at this moment. It seemed that they were really frightened by Gulanster's move. If they knew that Gulanster was just experimenting with a new skill, they would probably be even more shocked. You can all get up. I don't really like bowing and kneeling at every turn. You can just call me Gulanster. Gulanster looked at the bowing crowd in front of him and said indifferently. Hearing Gulanster's words, the red-haired young master and the others exchanged glances, and then slowly got up and stood aside. But it's a pity that I didn't encounter the Pighead Emperor or the demon behind him, otherwise. Gulenster stopped talking here, a trace of regret flashing in his eyes. Lord Gulenster, are you talking about the legendary Pighead Emperor who is born only once every few hundred years? And is that masked demon manipulating everything behind the scenes? The red-haired young master couldn't help but ask, a look of surprise on his face. Gulenster nodded and said in a deep voice, "That's right. According to the information I got, that masked demon should be a subordinate of a certain demon king, and the demon king's strength is not so easy to deal with." The red-haired young master and the others' expressions became serious after hearing Gulenster's words. They knew that they had no way to take revenge with just a few of them. After all, the opponent was a demon king. The red-haired young master looked at Gulenster in disbelief, and only dared to confirm after seeing Gulenster nod. Only the legendary Pighead Emperor has the possibility of leading so many pighead people. But what's even more worrying is Starving One. The white-haired great goblin, who was more experienced, spoke at this time. But what he wanted to say more was that the people they had left now simply couldn't take revenge. "But you don't have to worry. As long as I'm here, nothing will happen to you." Gulenster saw the expressions of the crowd and quickly comforted them. He had the idea of subduing the people on the other side, so he definitely had to protect them. After all, he had decided on this plan. The red-haired young master and the others felt a little more at ease after hearing Gulenster's words. "I promised you before that I would help you take revenge, but I didn't do it, so I can't ask you for anything either. What are your plans next?" Gulenster said to them at this time. The red-haired young master and the remaining people looked at each other, and a little confusion could be seen in their eyes. "Thank you very much, Lord, but we don't know what to do now." After saying that, his eyes were a little dim. Gulenster was not surprised by such an answer. He was waiting for this sentence. Chapter 53, Conquering and Naming. "How about you guys follow me from now on?" Gullendusta extended a hand again, but this time the meaning was different. "Lord Gullendusta, are you planning to take us as subordinates?" The red-haired young master looked at Gullendusta with a calm expression, but Gullendusta shook his head. "I just want to invite you to join my village, and I can protect you." When the 6 great ogres heard Gullendusta say this, they all understood and exchanged glances. They had nowhere else to go now, and it would be better to follow this lord than to wander around. After hesitating for a while, they all knelt in front of Gullendusta. "We are willing to follow you, Lord, and be at your disposal." 6. Gullendusta also smiled at this moment. These were powerful figures from the original work. Now their strength was already A level, but they already belonged to him. "Since you have all decided to follow me, then I will give you names. That will be more convenient." The 6 looked at Gullendusta in disbelief. They only thought that the Lord regarded them as ordinary subordinates, but they heard that he was going to name them. The meaning was different. Like Gullendusta, such a terrifying existence. Really? Lord Gullendusta? Yes. Gullendusta didn't want to come up with completely new names. The names in the original work were pretty good. According to the names in his memory, he named them Hongmaru, Zulai, Kangying, Ziwan, Barrow, and Haibingwei respectively. "Thank you very much, Lord." 6. Gullendusta suddenly felt the magic power in his body flowing away in large quantities. He immediately took out a magic potion and gulped it down without hesitation. Damn, this magic power is being consumed too quickly, it's like just finishing hundreds of intense battles. Gullendusta drank magic potions one bottle after another, until he had drunk more than 90 bottles before he finally felt the weakness in his body gradually lessen and eventually disappear. You must know that with Gullendusta's amazing magic power, under normal circumstances, these magic potions would have been difficult to completely replenish his whole body's magic power. These magic potions only restored most of his magic power, but it was enough. However, now the 6 people in front of him were evolving into Oni, and even their appearances had undergone tremendous changes. First is Hongmaru. The horns became smaller and had been transformed into crystal-like, the skin color became lighter, from light red to white, the ends of the hair became white, the facial features became softer, and the body also shrunk a circle. Zulai. The originally cute pink-haired girl, the red weon on her face disappeared, the demon horns shrunk like crystals, and she became a cute beautiful girl. Kangying. The appearance has basically not changed, the skin has become whiter, but the expression is more indifferent. It is completely the image of a cold handsome guy. Ziwan. The skin color becomes lighter, the horns become smaller, and the teeth have also changed, from the original wildness to more intellectual, showing a kind of intellectual big sister's temperament. Barrow. The appearance became younger, from an old man to a handsome uncle. However, the aura is more restrained, like a sword that has not been unsheathed. Haibingwei. The original muscular man who was more than 3 meters tall has become an ordinary middle-aged uncle, and his personality has also become gentle. Their appearance changes were more or less influenced by Gullendusta, more or less with some shadows of Gullendusta. Their strength will not be revealed for the time being, it will be mentioned in the subsequent war, and some skills will also change, look forward to it. Back to the village. Limlu ushered in a long-lost yelling. Gullendusta, where did you abduct these few subordinates who are so strong? Limlu stared at Hongmaru and others up and down, but what he said made Gullendusta roll his eyes. Have you named them all? Yes. Damn, with your picky eyes, you named 6 at once. It's really rare. I'm not as indiscriminate as you. Zulai covered her mouth and looked at the 2 people in front of her with big eyes and small eyes, wanting to laugh but unable to. The few people who had just arrived had similar expressions, and only the others looked like they were used to it. On the way back, Gullendusta had already introduced them to the situation in the village, and also knew that there was another great leader as powerful as Lord Gullendusta. Lord Gullendusta also mentioned the Ice Guard and Limlu's ideals to them, and they were all shocked. Lord Limlu, we have all heard Lord Gullendusta introduce the contributions you have made to the village, as well as your strength. Please take care of us in the future. Zulai is still more talkative. When Limlu heard such a beautiful girl complimenting him, he changed his face, and was a little embarrassed. Haha, not at all. Don't worry, our village definitely welcomes you. Next time you can experience my newly built hot spring, of course, it's the kind separated for men and women. Hot spring. Gullendusta looked at Limlu in surprise. The hot spring was built so quickly. Well, it seems there is a chance to experience it. The village also specially organized a banquet to welcome Hongmaru and others. Haha, let's have a toast. Everyone's glasses touched together. Gullendusta was grilling beef and venison on the grill at this time, and there was a goblin next to him as a helper. Gullendusta's control of the temperature can be said to be easy to come by. It's just barbecue, plus his special seasoning, and the aroma soon drifted away. It attracted a large group of people to line up in front of the grill. Gullendusta, are you done yet? The barbecue you grilled is too fragrant. Limlu, take your hand away, it's not grilled yet. Lord Gullendusta, this skill is too good. They have not eaten the meat grilled by Lord Gullendusta himself, and they are all looking forward to it. Finally, when the barbecue was ready, Gullendusta directly picked up 10 skewers and slipped away. 6 skewers were given to Hongmaru and others who had just joined. Thank you, Lord Gullendusta. When Gullendusta was still considering who to give the remaining skewers to, Limlu came over and took 2 skewers directly. Limlu, you are really welcome. Hee, so many people are queuing in front of the barbecue stall, I don't know when I will be able to eat it. Wow. Gullendusta, how did you make this seasoning? It's exactly the same as the one I used to eat at the stall. Gullendusta took a few bites on his own, the taste was not bad. The air was full of the aroma of meat. Gullendusta only grilled dozens of skewers, and those who did not get the beef and venison grilled by Gullendusta himself were disappointed. But fortunately, the goblin next to Gullendusta has learned almost everything, and there are many seasonings, but the taste is a little worse. Let's toast to celebrate Hongmaru and others joining our village. Limlu took the lead in picking up the wine glass and clinking it with Hongmaru and others. Perhaps doing so can allow them to integrate into this big family more quickly. Chapter 54 Meeting Arrangements. Inside the conference room. The group who had just finished the banquet sat around the rectangular table, each with a serious expression. What? Your ogres were wiped out by the pighead tribe. How is that possible? Kajin stared wide-eyed at Benimaru, unable to believe that the powerful ogres had suffered such a crushing defeat. You should know that, in the entire Jura forest, the ogres were the strongest. However, Benimaru's next words made Kajin realize that things were not so simple. It sounds like these pig heads are somewhat unusual. At this time, Rimuru turned his gaze to Gransta's calm face. It turned out that Lord Gransta had saved them. Moreover, Lord Gransta has confirmed that the mastermind behind all of this is a demon lord's force. Even worse, a pig-head lord has been born among them. After Benimaru finished speaking in a heavy tone, he turned his gaze to Gransta, as if waiting for his instructions at any moment. Pig-head lord. Heavens, that's a disaster for the entire forest. The conference room immediately fell silent. At this moment, the atmosphere in the conference room was unusually tense, and everyone was deep in thought. Faced with such a severe situation, they had to quickly formulate a response strategy, otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable. Especially Rigurd and the dwarves' faces became particularly solemn. Rimuru looked at the originally noisy scene suddenly becoming silent, his heart filled with doubts. He didn't know what had happened, so he turned his gaze to everyone present. What exactly is a pighead lord? It sounds like it's very powerful. Rimuru muttered to himself, puzzled. At this moment, Rigurd, who was beside him, seemed to notice Rimuru's confusion. He took the initiative to step forward and explain to Rimuru. Lord Rimuru, the pighead lord is a very rare existence among the pighead tribe. It is said that such a special individual is only born every few hundred years. They possess extremely strong power and outstanding leadership abilities. Rigurd paused, then continued. However, every time a pighead lord appears, it means that the forest is about to face a great disaster. They often lead a large number of pighead tribesmen to attack other races, bringing endless destruction and chaos to the entire forest. Rimuru listened attentively to Rigurd's explanation, gradually understanding the importance of the matter. It turned out that this pighead lord was so special and threatening, no wonder everyone seemed so nervous and vigilant. Rimuru, the most crucial thing is that the pighead lord's skills are very similar to yours. A special skill called Starved allows him and his subordinates to gain power by devouring enemies, allowing them to constantly evolve. Granstar spoke to Rimuru at this time. It was necessary to let Rimuru understand the dangers of this matter. If they continue to devour like this, the pighead lord will probably evolve into a pighead demon lord, possessing demon lord level strength. But the most troublesome thing is that this matter may involve a demon lord who wants to get his hands on the Jura forest. Granstar continued in a calm tone. The faces of the crowd changed again and again, including Rimuru's. Especially after the possibility of facing two opponents with demon lord level strength, Rimuru's face became serious. Granstar, then what should we do? We can't let the pighead lord continue to devour. Granstar looked at Rimuru, who had rarely become serious, and nodded in satisfaction, making a gesture of putting his hands together, and said his method. First, we must send out our scouts to find out the specific number and strength of the other party, preferably to find out the other party's route of action. Only then can we select a location and send out all our combat power to carry out a one-time annihilation battle. Of course, this is a great disaster sweeping the entire forest. How can we rely entirely on our strength? We must also send envoys to contact the combat-capable tribes, and we will take the lead in integrating the living forces of the entire forest. Rimuru was stunned for a long time after listening to the plan given by Granstar. Especially the eyes of the others looking at Granstar all radiated an unspeakable light. I can't tell, Granstar, you still have this talent. I think your method is feasible. Rimuru nodded, indicating that he first agreed with the plan proposed by Granstar. However, regarding this scout and the personnel sent to negotiate, Rimuru turned his gaze to the crowd again, and began to weigh the appropriate candidates in his mind. He knew the importance of this mission and had to find reliable people with the corresponding abilities to carry it out. At this moment, Sue stepped forward and volunteered. My lords, please allow me to undertake this task. With my ability, I will definitely complete the task satisfactorily. Rimuru originally planned to send his Ranga. After all, the shadow movement skill possessed by Ranga was very suitable for performing this task. However, facing Sue's active request, he couldn't help but hesitate. Granstar, you should make the arrangements. In the end, Rimuru chose to throw the problem to Granstar, hoping that he could proceed from the overall situation and make the most appropriate decision. After Granstar pondered for a while, he felt that Sue's shadow clone ability was indeed very suitable for undertaking this important task. However, out of careful consideration, in order to ensure that nothing went wrong, he decided to add some additional safeguards. Well, I think sending Sue is a wise choice, but for safety's sake, let Ranga accompany him. Rimuru pondered for a moment. Such an arrangement was indeed a good idea, so he summoned Ranga from his shadow. Ranga jumped out of Rimuru's shadow like a bolt of lightning and landed steadily on the ground. Master, please rest assured. I will definitely complete the task satisfactorily. Ranga's eyes were firm, and he assured Rimuru with certainty. Just as they were finalizing the mission and the candidates, Rigurd hurried over to report. My lords, a team of lizardman soldiers has arrived at the entrance of our village. It seems they have something to discuss. And they are clamoring for the master of the village to go out and pay homage to their highness. Rigurd said the last sentence angrily. After hearing this, everyone present also showed angry expressions towards these rude guys. Granstar originally planned to unite the living forces in the forest to fight against the Pighead Lord, and the Lizardmen came so coincidentally. Granstar and Rimuru looked at each other, and both saw a hint of strangeness in their eyes. Rigard, take us to see what kind of guys are so arrogant. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 55 Gaviru. The group slowly walked out of the meeting room, heading towards the village entrance led by Rigard. Lord Gabiru, they've come out. Oh, really? Then what are we waiting for? Quickly get into formation. We absolutely cannot let Lord Gabiru lose face. Gabiru spoke, hastily retracting his gaze from the strange and tall buildings within the village. Seeing Granstar and his group approaching, the Lizardman team quickly adjusted their postures, preparing to once again display the move they had practiced countless times. Gabiru took a deep breath, then stepped onto the back of a Lizardman soldier and leapt with all his might. He performed a perfect 360-degree spin in midair, finally landing steadily on the ground with an extremely dashing motion. Gabiru! Gabiru! Lord Gabiru is so handsome. Lord Gabiru is invincible. A group of Lizardman soldiers frantically shouted slogans behind Gabiru, as if this scene had become the focus of the entire arena, as flamboyant as could be. The scene was quite unique, like a performance. However, faced with such a scene, Rimuru couldn't help but frown. What exactly is this charade? He muttered to himself. After all, the purpose of his visit was to meet the Lizardman envoy, not to watch this circus-like performance. At this moment, his heart was filled with confusion. Granstar's mouth twitched uncontrollably several times, because the people in front of him were just too abstract. The group who came out with him exchanged glances, muttering to themselves. Could these be the rumored Lizardmen? Why are they all like this? Just then, Gabiru said something that infuriated everyone. I am Gabiru of the Lizardmen. Quickly become my subordinates. You should feel incredibly honored. Upon hearing this, Benimaru clenched his fists, his eyes filled with anger. The idea that a subordinate should die for his lord probably described his feelings. Fortunately, Granstar reached out in time to pat Benimaru's shoulder, gently shaking his head, signaling him to calm down. Benimaru took a deep breath, trying to regain his composure, but his eyes remained sharply fixed on Gabiru. Listen up, all of you. You must remember this great man before your eyes. He is the powerful warrior who will soon become our next Lizardman leader. His status is incomparably noble and distinguished. The Lizardman soldiers standing behind him immediately shouted in unison, their voices neat and loud. Become subordinates. Feel honored. What an amazing appearance. Who does he think he is? Granstar directly sensed the strength of this arrogant guy with magic. Well, B+ rank strength is indeed very strong, he can already enter the material stockpile. Gabiru proudly raised his head and said slowly. You should have heard about the orc army attacking the Great Jura forest. Then, becoming my subordinate is the best choice. I, Lord Gabiru, will protect the weak, you, from the threat of the orcs. When Gabiru said, the weak you, he opened one eye and looked across repeatedly, confirming again and again. Why are there ogres here? This man's aura is so cold and terrifying. His gaze shifted again. Wow, so big. Wait a minute, why aren't there any goblins here? Speaking of which, there isn't even a weak aura. Why does it feel like the aura on the other side is so powerful? Let me organize my words. Gabiru quickly returned to the Lizardman team, pulling over a few lackeys to discuss. We didn't come to the wrong place, did we? Why are there ogres here, and did you see that green-skinned monster with all those muscles? Lord Gabiru, I just checked, this is the place. It seems the master here is a slime and a small elf. A slime and a small elf. Gabiru instantly felt his confidence returning. Rimuru was currently chatting using open black lens bracket telepathy close black lens bracket, with an angry look on his face. Open black lens bracket Granstar, this Lizardman envoy is too annoying. I really want to beat him up, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket haha, let's see what they have to say first. The matter of forming an alliance is still important, close black lens bracket. Rimuru thought about it and realized that was right. When the orc army attacked, forming an alliance with the Lizardmen wouldn't be a bad idea, but this envoy's brain. As the saying goes, what's truly terrifying isn't a godlike enemy, but a pig-like teammate. Ahem, I heard there's someone here who has subdued Tempest Wolves as subordinates. Quickly call him out. I'm here to take him as my subordinate. Such a death wish. Rimuru couldn't bear it any longer and summoned Ranga. He seems to have something to say to you. Go listen. Yes, master. A snow-white wolf leapt out of Rimuru's shadow, transforming into a huge snow-white giant wolf in the air. In a few steps, he came in front of Gabiru, staring intently at the person before him with his heterochromatic eyes. By Master's order, I am here to accompany you. Open black lens bracket intimidation close black lens bracket activated. The lizardman soldiers behind Gabiru, who were just shouting arrogantly, were paralyzed on the ground by this wave of intimidation. But Gabiru stood motionless in front of Ranga, as if the scene had frozen. Rimuru stared at Gabiru strangely, wondering if he had been scared silly. After a while, Gabiru's eyes began to speak as he looked at Ranga. You must be the chief of the Tempest Wolf tribe. Beautiful snow-white fur, sharp eyes, and a majestic figure, but hearing that your master is just a slime is a bit disappointing. It seems you have been deceived. Well then, allow me to defeat the despicable villain who is manipulating you. After speaking, Gabiru still showed a calm expression with a faint arrogance. Ranga bared his teeth directly after listening, his eyes becoming extremely fierce, and he emitted an astonishing killing intent. I'm a despicable villain. Rimuru stared with innocent big eyes, looking like he was looking at a poor worm, indicating that if you don't know how to talk, say a little more. Now you're finished. A mere lizard dares to fool my master. Ranga really wanted to take action directly, but if he did, Gabiru in front of him would probably not survive. He still remembered the rules set by Lord Rimuru and Lord Granstar in the village. Don't bully the weak just because you are strong. Just then, what are you guys doing? A voice sounded from the side. Chapter 56 Gobda. Just then, a goblin with a large, dull head was walking over with an arrogant gait. Gobuta, you actually came. Weren't you supposed to be training the goblin cavalry? Rimuru turned his head and saw Gobuta walking over with a strange gait. The one who came was none other than the current squad leader of the goblin cavalry, Gobuta. During the last trip to the Dwarf Kingdom, under the encouragement of Rimuru's grass-weaving art, he comprehended the skill of summoning frost wolves. As the first goblin to comprehend the shadow summon skill, Rimuru directly appointed him as the squad leader of the goblin cavalry, with his first task being to teach other goblins to learn this skill as well. Rimuru looked at Gobuta walking with a swagger and felt a headache coming on. It seemed necessary to check his training results. And just at this moment, Ranga's figure suddenly disappeared. The next moment, he appeared behind Gobuta like a ghost, his speed as fast as lightning, leaving people with no time to react. Ranga opened his mouth and accurately bit Gobuta's collar. Gobuta completely did not expect Ranga's actions and let out a scream. Before he could recover, Ranga had already flung him like a sack of potatoes in front of Gabiru. Not only that, but Ranga also thoughtfully handed Gobuta a hoe, as if to say, take it, and perform well. If you can beat this goblin, I might consider what you just said. The wolf's head turned and said this to Gabiru before retreating to the side. As soon as Ranga's words fell, the whole scene instantly became tense. Gobuta, clutching the hoe tightly, had his face full of tension and unease. He widened his eyes, staring intently at Gabiru, who was half a head taller than him, secretly lamenting in his heart. At the same time, Gobuta did not forget to look pitifully in the direction of Rimuru, as if asking his master for help. Rimuru, seeing this scene, also looked puzzled. He did not understand why Ranga would do this, and his heart was full of questions. However, just at this moment, he heard Granstar's voice in his mind, reminding him. After listening to Granstar's explanation, Rimuru suddenly understood and finally realized. So that's how it is. Gobuta, do your best. I'm optimistic about you. If you lose, you can wait to taste the upgraded version of my newly invented grass-weaving art. Gobuta trembled violently upon hearing this, his whole body seemed to erupt with a primordial force, and he instantly became very imposing. Granstar, seeing this scene, was also speechless. Looking at Rimuru waving his small fists, you still have the leisure to create an upgraded version, you really are something. Gabiru, upon hearing this, felt that his dignity had been insulted, especially by the little goblin in front of him holding a hoe. How could he tolerate this? Ranga came between them and acted as the referee. Then, let's begin. Woo, a wolf howl rang out, indicating the start of the battle. HMPH. As descendants of the great dragon race, how could we lizardmen lose to a mere goblin? Gabiru flourished the spear in his hand in the air, finally pointing it directly at Gobuta. However, Gobuta did not have so many unnecessary movements, but carefully observed Gabiru. Seeing Gabiru's spear attacking, Gobuta constantly used his small body to dodge, his eyes fixed on an opportunity to use the hoe in his hand to knock the spear away. Taking advantage of Gabiru's stunned moment, he pulled away a distance from him, and then suddenly threw the hoe. Whoosh! Gabiru's pupils suddenly contracted, watching the thrown attack constantly enlarge in front of him. He mobilized the magic power in his body to increase his speed, barely dodging the attack. Just as Gabiru dodged the attack, a black shadow formed under Gabuta's feet, and his entire body disappeared into the shadow. Then Gabuta's figure suddenly appeared from the shadow under Gabiru's feet, jumping up and performing a sweep skill, successfully hitting the back of Gabiru's head. With a bang, Gabiru's body flew straight out, face down, and fell to the ground, passing out. The victory is decided, the winner is Gabuta. Ranga stood out and directly announced the result, but he looked at the unconscious Gabiru with a look of contempt. The team of lizardmen soldiers behind him were immediately stunned, and even Rimuru and the others were dumbfounded. Was Gabuta usually this fierce? Wow, Gabuta can actually skillfully use the shadow movement skill. Hikuro also looked at Gabuta and nodded with a smile, looking very optimistic about Gabuta. Granstar, on the other hand, looked at Gabiru on the ground with a playful expression. Tisk tisk, B+ level strength. How terrifying. Several lizardmen soldiers hurriedly carried their Lord Gabiru away, and the team retreated in a disheveled manner. Just blame my subordinate Gabuta for being so powerful. You just said. Actually, Granstar had just said something to Rimuru using telepathy. Just let Gabuta go. If Gabuta gets hurt, won't you have a reason to teach this arrogant lizardman a lesson? This time Granstar did not argue with the triumphant Rimuru, and let Rimuru be smug for a while. Haha, Gabuta did a great job, tonight let Xian add a chicken leg for you. I heard that her cooking skills are unmatched among the ogre clan, you are very lucky. Rimuru patted Gabuta's shoulder with satisfaction. Benimaru silently took a few steps back, secretly thinking. These words were not what he said. The battle result was really beyond Granstar's expectations. He couldn't help but stroke his chin, his eyes fixed on Gabuta, who was being held high. He pondered in his heart. I didn't expect that Gabuta would have this kind of talent. Truly a good seedling. While thinking, Granstar turned his gaze to the old man in white robes beside him, Hikuro. Obviously, Granstar hoped that Hikuro could put in more effort to cultivate Gabuta well. After all, Hikuro is now shouldering the important task of swordplay instruction in the village. If he can get the guidance and training of this sword master, Gabuta may become a fighting force in the village in the future. At this moment, Hikuro also noticed Granstar's gaze. He smiled and stroked his long white beard, saying, Lord Granstar, in fact, this old man is also very optimistic about this child. In my opinion, Gabuta has a talent for cultivating swordsmanship. As long as he is tempered more, he may not be able to show his talent in the future. Hearing Hikuro's high praise for Gabuta, Rimuru looked at Gabuta with some surprise. He still believed that Hikuro's vision was very sharp. After all, Rimuru himself would often ask Hikuro to teach him swordsmanship. Chapter 57 Laplace. Lord Gavel, you're finally awake. We were so worried about you. Gavel, rubbing the back of his head, slowly regained consciousness and opened his bewildered eyes. What happened to me? Lord Gavel, you were defeated. A lizardman follower didn't quite dare to look at Gavel's expression, and the surrounding lizardmen all lowered their heads in disappointment. If it weren't for my momentary carelessness in dodging, and being ambushed by that goofy-looking goblin. HMPH, otherwise how could I have lost to a mere goblin? And don't be fooled by what you see. Hearing Lord Gavel's words, the lizardmen finally raised their heads, their eyes filled with light. Lord Gavel, how were we deceived? A follower looked at Gavel with some confusion. Based on my personal combat experience, I've come to the conclusion that the goblin must be the master of that place, but he used illusions to deceive my eyes. Truly despicable. Gavel said to his subordinates with certainty. Yes, they're too despicable. Lord Gavel is invincible, but they actually resorted to underhanded tactics. How hateful. Hello, amazing, so amazing. After speaking, someone even started clapping. These lizardmen didn't doubt Gavel's words at all, and enthusiastically flattered their lord. However, strangely, a strange voice was mixed in with the flattery. Immersed in the many compliments, Gavel was now proudly raising his head, his heart filled with unparalleled confidence and satisfaction. Suddenly, a strange voice entered his ears, shattering his complacency. Gavel turned his head and immediately saw the person who made the sound. He saw a masked Majin wearing a clown mask standing in the crowd, clapping at him. This sudden figure instantly raised Gavel's vigilance. Who exactly is this person? Why didn't I notice him approaching? Who are you? Gavel immediately raised the weapon in his hand and aimed it at the Majin with the clown mask. At the same time, the other lizardman soldiers quickly reacted, and they all picked up their weapons and surrounded the strangely dressed person. However, faced with such a tense situation, the Majin with the clown mask appeared unusually calm. Not only did he not show the slightest fear, but he also gracefully bowed to everyone and introduced himself. Hello, everyone, don't be so nervous, my name is Laplace. Laplace. Gavel stared closely at the strange masked Majin in front of him, repeating the name the other party had given, as if trying to search his memory for any information about this name. At this time, Laplace continued to speak. I am the messenger sent by Lord Gelmudo, specifically to give you a little warning. The clown-masked Majin then raised his head slyly, opened one eye that had not been covered, and said a sentence. His tone was relaxed and casual, as if he didn't take the situation in front of him seriously at all. What? It's actually Lord Gelmudo. Gavel looked at the strange man in shock. At this time, a lizard man looked at his companion suspiciously and asked secretly. Who is this Lord Gelmudo? Lord Gavel's expression seems like he knows him. I haven't seen him either, but it seems like I heard His Highness mention him before. He is the higher demon who named His Highness. Oh, so it's like that. Gavel immediately put away his guarded expression and ordered his subordinates to put away their weapons. Thank you for making a trip here, so what is Gelmudo's warning? The clown-masked Majin made a strange gesture as if he was acting funny, and squinted his eyes to look at Gavel. Actually, I came here this time to tell you that this time the Orc army is led by the Orc Lord. The other lizardman soldiers looked a little puzzled when they heard this. Orc Lord. Even Gavel stared at the masked Majin with an unchanged expression, his face indifferent. Isn't it? This time it was Laplace's turn to be surprised. He looked at the few people in front of him, with an unbelievable expression on his face. What kind of expressions do you all have? Don't you even know what an Orc Lord is? He frowned, muttering to himself. Especially Gavel's indifferent appearance made Laplace feel a little dumbfounded. He couldn't help cursing secretly in his heart. Where did Gelmudo find this simpleton? It made me brew up my emotions for so long for nothing. If it weren't for the fact that he had to sacrifice this guy to HMPH. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made this trip. Although the leader of you lizardmen is a remarkable person, he is already old after all. Laplace suppressed the dissatisfaction in his heart, smiled awkwardly, and then continued in a tempting tone. And I heard that this time you are facing the Orc Lord's army. To be honest, it would be too difficult for your father to solve this matter, why not let you? Gavel obviously understood the implication in the clown-masked Majin's words. He couldn't help but narrow his eyes, and the expression on his face seemed a little tempted. Originally, I planned to inherit the position of leader after repelling the Orc army, but now it seems it's too late. Gavel originally said in a low voice, but later he simply gritted his teeth and made a decision in his heart. That's right, that's right. Only a young and powerful you can lead everyone to repel the Orc army and become the savior of the entire Jura forest. Laplace looked at Gavel's reaction with satisfaction and kept saying flattering words. He secretly rejoiced in his heart that things were developing smoothly according to the original plan. And on a big tree not far away, there was a figure with his arms crossed, quietly watching all this. Lord Soe, as you ordered, I used a clone to follow behind this lizardman messenger, and as you said, I really saw a mastermind with a clown mask. Soe knelt on one knee on the ground, reporting everything he had seen to Granstar. Granstar listened quietly, his face expressionless, but deep in his ice-blue pupils was a piece of coldness. Get up. Don't kneel on the ground to report work in the future, you know I don't like this. Yes, my lord. Soe received Granstar's order and stood up, but his face was still stiff. Continue to use the clone to monitor every move of this masked demon, and also promptly find out the detailed information of the Orc army. Understood. Remember to pay attention to safety, remember to notify me if there is any danger. After Granstar finished saying the last sentence, Soe's shadow directly disappeared into the darkness. It seems that Clayman, this guy, is the Demon Lord. He has already set his sights on this forest. A chilling sentence echoed in the hall of the Ice Sculpture Castle. Chapter 58 Intelligence. Second meeting. However, this time the meeting was held in the Ice Sculpture Castle, where everything was personally carved by Gulista. Intricate and ornate patterns were carved on the doors, every detail showcasing unparalleled craftsmanship. Inside the castle, long ice corridors meandered, with ice pillars standing like guards on both sides, shimmering with brilliant light under the refraction of the light. The hall was open and spacious, with a high vaulted ceiling and ice-sculpted chandeliers emitting a soft halo. Ice-sculpted tables and chairs were placed throughout, so exquisite that one couldn't bear to touch them. Limuru, on the other hand, was bored, propping up his small head and began to look around at the furnishings. Although he came here often, he always admired these works every time. Gulista, you are simply an artist. Do you usually like to play with these sculptures when you have nothing to do? Gulista raised his eyebrows slightly, smiling as he explained to Limuru. Yes, actually, I accidentally discovered that concentrating on carving can effectively train my control over magic. Especially when I carve the works more and more delicately, this training effect becomes more and more significant. After pausing for a moment, he continued. Alas, there's no way around it. Who asked my ice-based skills to have extremely high requirements for magic control? If I'm not careful, if I don't control my magic well, then the area covered by the abilities I release may accidentally injure my own people. Limuru smacked his lips after listening, expressing his understanding. He thought for a moment. Gulista always caused a wide range of icy and snowy scenes whenever he launched an attack, which was indeed somewhat dangerous for friendly forces. Hey, why don't you give it a try too? Gulista wanted Limuru to try ice sculpting. Limuru immediately shook his head like a rattle drum, waving his hands repeatedly. What a joke, he didn't have the patience or composure to do the carving himself. You need to know, with Limuru's wild personality, making him quiet down to do this kind of meticulous work is simply harder than ascending to heaven. After conveying the notice to everyone through telepathy, Gulista and Limuru sat at the head of the table, and everyone else sat around the long rectangular ice table in the middle. On Gulista's left were Hong Maru, Bai Lao, Kang Ying, Ziyuan, Ligulu, Gobta, and others. On the right side were Ligulid, Zulai, Kaijin, Kurobe, Rugurudo, Ligurudo, Gugurudo, Lilina, and others. This seating arrangement did not have a clear distinction of status, but simply distinguished their respective jobs. Seeing everyone's eyes turned upwards, Gulista knew it was time to discuss the war arrangements. Let Kang Ying report the intelligence he has gathered these days. Yes, Lord. Kang Ying stood up and bowed slightly to Gulista and Limuru. He began to report on the details and movements of the pighead army that he and Arashi had investigated these days. He took out a piece of sheepskin map from his arms and spread it on the ice table. It simply drew some areas of the Jura Great Forest, and many red dots represented the main force of the pighead army. The most terrifying thing is that the number of these pighead army has reached 200,000. They constantly devour the fallen members of their own race and the creatures along the way as supplies, evolving from the original D-level monsters to C-level monsters. Among them, I also sensed dozens of pighead generals, whose strength is probably above B-level. What? They actually have 200,000. Limuru's eyes widened, and he was really shocked by this number. The others showed solemn expressions after hearing this. If the 200,000 pighead army was allowed to continue devouring, this would be a devastating disaster for all the races living in the Jura Great Forest. So, our village will be targeted sooner or later, right? Limuru's tone began to become serious. Let's talk about the pighead army's route of action first. Limuru, you may have a big battle this time. Gulista looked at the surprised Limuru. This time, Limuru and he were the main force facing the pighead lord. I understand. Gulista, I'll leave this matter to you to arrange. Limuru nodded solemnly. However, what Gulista was thinking about was evolving Limuru's predator into gluttony. Starving one is a skill that can devour all surrounding matter. After it merges with predator, it evolves Limuru's predator skill into gluttony. Yes, my lords. The pighead tribe's army is advancing north along the Great River all the way to Conquer, and judging from the movements of the main team and the sub-teams, their meeting point this time is in the eastern SDI. Kang Ying continued. Gulista looked at the position on the map. In other words, their target this time is the area ruled by the lizardmen. Yes, if that's the case, we may have to set the battlefield at the location of the lizardmen tribe, but the premise is that we must establish an alliance with the lizardmen tribe. It's best to meet their chief directly. Don't fight a decisive battle resolutely, hold on until we arrive, otherwise the pighead army that has devoured the lizardmen tribe will be even more difficult to deal with. Gulista looked at Kang Ying, this capable guy, again. Kang Ying, I may have to trouble you to go to the lizardmen tribe again this time. Your subordinate will not hesitate. Kang Ying's voice just fell, and at this moment, His body obviously froze, and he looked at Lord Gulista and Lord Limuru sitting above with a look of surprise. Gulista also noticed Kang Ying's abnormality. Kang Ying's face regained its composure. Lord Gulista, someone just contacted the clone I placed in the forest for reconnaissance, and she also said she wanted to see Lord Limuru and Lord Gulista. Want to see me and Limuru? Gulista raised his eyebrows, secretly speculating who it would be, and also choosing such a time. Who is it? If it's another strange guy like Gaviru before, I don't want to see him at all. Limuru looked over here with curious eyes. Well, it's a very rare guest. She said that she hopes to be able to meet Lord Gulista in person no matter what. Hearing this, Limuru showed a puzzled expression and looked at Gulista at the same time. Gulista also felt very surprised. After the two looked at each other, they stared at each other for a moment. Do you know her? Finally, Limuru took the lead in breaking the silence. I don't know. Gulista shook his head gently, indicating that he knew nothing about this person. At this time, Kang Ying added, My lords, according to my observation, this person seems to be a dryad. Chapter 59, Tree Elf, Terrene. A tree dryad, is it? Like those tree spirit big sisters that often appear in games. Rimuru's interest was immediately piqued upon hearing it was a tree dryad. It's fine, let her in. Gulistan already knew who was coming. However, looking at Rimuru's excited expression, he muttered to himself, what game is he talking about? How come I've never played this one before? Alas, unlike the island country, which is so open, these types of games are rare in reality. After all, the control is severe. Those who understand, understand. Diamond suit. The expressions of the others immediately became surprised. If I remember correctly, wasn't the last time the tree dryad Sama appeared decades ago? Rigurd, who was on the side, stood up in surprise. Just then, a green leaf floated in from outside without any wind. When it floated past Gulistan, it even circled him a few times before finally landing on the conference table. The green leaf landed on the conference table, and a flash of green light flickered. It started as a small sapling, with a few leaves floating around it for decoration, and then it transformed into a barefooted maiden with long green hair and a light green dress. This maiden lightly floated to the ground and gave a bow to everyone. I apologize for the sudden visit. I am the tree dryad, Trainee. Please treat me well. After Trainee finished speaking, she kept staring curiously at Gulistan above with a pair of emerald green eyes. Rimuru looked at the two of them strangely, looking at Gulistan for a moment and then at the suddenly visiting Trainee. Open black lens bracket Gulistan, you said you didn't know her. Otherwise, why would this tree dryad Sand keep staring at you as soon as she came in? Confess the truth, how many young ladies have you provoked? Close black lens bracket. Rimuru's telepathic message rang in Gulistan's mind, causing Gulistan, who already had a strange expression, to turn black. Open black lens bracket Rimuru, don't wrong me. I am very pure, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket I believe you, my foot, close black lens bracket. Anyway, Rimuru didn't believe him and simply turned his head away. Ahem, Miss Trainee, may I ask what brings you to me and Rimuru? Seeing Rimuru's unwilling expression, Gulistan could only awkwardly cough and ask himself. Oh, I was really rude just now. Perhaps realizing that her actions just now were a bit rude, her face couldn't help but become a little rosy. When the surrounding people saw the change in the tree dryad Sama's expression, they all stared playfully at their own Gulistan Sama. There's something fishy going on here. As expected of Gulistan Sama. Gulistan was getting goosebumps from the playful gazes of the surrounding people and was speechless. I'm telling you, Miss Tree Dryad, why are you blushing like a teapot? You're making it even harder for me to explain. Actually, I came here for two things. One is to ask your leader, the one who rules over the monsters, to subjugate the Orc Lord. The other thing is to thank Gulistan Sama. The surrounding gazes all stared at Gulistan in surprise, not expecting the tree dryad Sama to personally come to thank him. What did Gulistan Sama do? Rimuru also revealed a curious gaze and looked at Trainee. Miss Trainee, we have already decided to subjugate the Orc Lord, so please don't worry. You said you want to thank this guy, Gulistan. Could you please explain in detail? Upon hearing that the other party had already agreed to subjugate the Orc Lord, Trainee immediately felt relieved. I represent the Tree Dryad race in thanking Rimuru Sama. As for thanking Gulistan Sama, it's actually. The people around slowly understood after hearing the words of the Tree Dryad Sama. It turned out that Gulistan would usually go to various parts of the forest to hunt down some of the more evil and powerful monsters, which was originally something that the forest managers should have handled. Once, there was an evil monster with extremely strong power that was about to threaten one of their clansmen, and Gulistan's sudden intervention saved her. From that time on, Trainee began to notice a powerful male elf appearing in the forest and secretly began to observe him. Gulistan only remembered at this time that he seemed to have indeed saved a little girl, but at the time, he didn't even notice that it was a tree dryad. After killing the monster and extracting the materials, he turned around and left. Jura Forest. An area located in the north, with complex and crisscrossing rivers, surrounded by lush aquatic plants. This is the most fertile land in the entire forest because it has the largest wetland. Of course, it also has abundant fish and meat resources, and the lizardman tribe lives and resides here. An urgent voice echoed within the underground palace. Report. Chief, the orc army is rushing towards our tribe's location, and their equipment is well equipped. The elderly lizardman chief sitting on the throne was no longer calm. Mere orcs. How dare they? And where did their equipment come from? Has anyone scouted how many people are in the opposing army? The lizardman scout soldier swallowed with difficulty. Chief, they have an army of 200,000. The lizardman chief widened his eyes in shock and disbelief and stood up from the throne. He stared intently at the scout soldier below. What did you say? How many? The lizardman soldier repeated with difficulty. Chief, we scouted several times and even lost dozens of scout soldiers. They have 200,000. The lizardman chief weakly sat back on the throne, and the surrounding guards were also shocked by the number of enemies. How could there be an orc army of 200,000? That's impossible. You must know that the lizardman race lives in groups, and all the clansmen are scattered and live together. The entire tribe has less than 10,000 soldiers in total. But the enemy is 20 times their size. The lizardman chief was silent for a long time before regaining his senses from the shock. Based on his many years of experience, he muttered to himself. Could it be that an orc lord has appeared among the orcs? If that's the case, their lizardman race has no way to contend with it. Should they retreat as a clan? Or fight to the death? Just then, halt! Who are you? The lizardman soldier guarding outside shouted at this time, but he quickly became unable to move. Glare, glare. A Kijin with short dark blue hair and a pure white horn was walking slowly towards this side. Quick, protect the chief. The lizardman confidants around him quickly surrounded their chief. Who are you? The lizardman chief looked expressionlessly at the Kijin walking towards him. He could feel the amazing magical power within this Kijin's body. My master sent me to discuss an alliance with the lizardman race. Sue looked at the lizardman chief on the throne and said indifferently. How strong would that strength be? Can we now talk about the alliance with the lizardman race? Forgive my discourtesy, but we are currently in a crisis and unable to properly entertain you. The lizardman chief dismissed the surrounding soldiers, his gaze fixed on the ogre before him. The ogre, Sue, stood there expressionlessly, his eyes as calm as still water, seemingly unaffected by the tense atmosphere. He nodded slightly, indicating his understanding of the lizardman chief's situation. No need for formalities. I am merely a messenger, here only to deliver a message on behalf of my masters. Sue's voice was somewhat low, as if carrying an irresistible force. The lizardman chief exchanged a glance with the head guard beside him, then slowly began to speak. Oh, are you referring to the matter of an alliance? Sue nodded, his tone still calm. Yes, my masters wish to form an alliance with the lizardman tribe. Surely you are aware of the matter of the orc lord. The lizardman chief pondered inwardly. However, at this critical moment, any decision required careful consideration. The lizardman chief hesitated for a moment, finally unable to resist asking. But, we do not know your masters. Why would they choose to ally with us? Sue seemed to have anticipated this, and he answered calmly. My masters are Lord Granstar and Lord Rimuru. As for why they chose to ally with you, it is because we have a common enemy, the orc lord. Hearing this, the lizardman chief's expression became serious. In fact, he was well aware of the terror of the orc army, their brutal actions filled all races with fear. If they could ally with other forces to jointly resist the orc army, it might increase their chances of victory. However, the lizardman chief's heart was still full of doubts. He couldn't help but think to himself, when did an ogre capable of commanding such power appear in the Jura forest? What exactly is their purpose? He had never heard of this so-called Lord Granstar and Lord Rimuru, but judging from the tone of their messenger, they clearly possessed considerable strength. Just as he was pondering, Sue continued. There is also something else I must tell you. We have already obtained the support of the tree ants. Sue's words were like a thunderclap, exploding in the lizardman chief's ears. What? You have the support of the forest's Guan Li Jie. The surrounding lizardman soldiers were all astonished. As monsters living in the Jura forest, how could they not know the name of the forest's tree ant Guan Li Jie? Obviously, this news was even more deterrent to them. The tree ants, an ancient race in the Jura forest, wielding the open black lens bracket Wrath of Heaven close black lens bracket. Possessing mysterious power and wisdom, obtaining their support undoubtedly added a tremendous advantage to this alliance. After Sue finished speaking, he quietly awaited the lizardman chief's reaction. But it seemed that no matter where you go, there will always be some brainless fools who like to interrupt at such crucial moments. HMPH, what lords? Never heard of them. You must be a bunch of cowardly rats who are afraid of the Orc Lord, so you want to drag us down with you. Chief, such an attitude will be looked down upon. However, before this talkative lizardman could even finish speaking, he suddenly felt his neck tighten, followed by a sharp pain. The ogre Sue's expression instantly turned cold, his eyes erupting with a chilling killing intent. With a slight upward motion of his hand, an extremely sharp ice blade, shimmering with a cold light, precisely stopped at the neck of that impudent fool under his control, with traces of blood slowly seeping out along the blade. The surrounding soldiers all widened their eyes in horror. Stop. I apologize on behalf of my tribe for his impudent behavior. Please be merciful and spare him. The lizardman chief hurriedly rose from his throne. HMPH. Sue snorted coldly, dispelling the magic he had conjured. The cold, sharp ice blade slowly dissipated in the air, as if it had never appeared. Ah! The lizardman, regaining his ability to move, slumped and immediately fell to the ground. He stared at the ogre in front of him with a face full of fear, his heart filled with terror and awe. At that moment, he felt the aura of death. Sue's strength was too great, with just one action, he was rendered immobile. At this moment, he finally understood why the chief valued this ogre so much. You need to know that he dared to be so arrogant because he had B-grade strength, and was an elite in the tribe. But in front of this person, even the lizardman trembled, trying to get himself up from the ground. I don't like people speaking ill of my masters behind their backs. I understand. The lizardman said stammeringly, his voice filled with obvious fear. Sue looked at him expressionlessly, a hint of disdain flashing in his eyes. For such a weakling, he didn't even need to lift a finger to easily obliterate him. Remember, there will be no next time, Sue said coldly. Otherwise, you will bear the consequences. The lizardman chief secretly breathed a sigh of relief. You may leave. The impudent lizardman was taken away with the support of other soldiers. After a long silence, the lizardman chief finally spoke. Choosing to ally with the strong might be the hope for this crisis, but I have one condition. Sue nodded slightly. Please speak. I want to meet the two lords you speak of. Such a request is not excessive, is it? Sue paused for a moment, then recovered. It is acceptable. Then, after we are ready, we will come here to support you in 3 days, and you will see them then. But the prerequisite is that you can withstand 3 days. The lizardman chief thought for a moment before saying. With our underground palace's natural defenses, if it's 3 days. Very well, no problem. Sue nodded upon hearing the desired answer, and with a flash of his body, disappeared into the shadows. Seeing Sue, who had disappeared from the palace, the lizardman chief breathed a sigh of relief after confirming that the ogre had left, and sat back on his throne. He turned to the head guard beside him and said, that should be an Oni of the great Oni race. And the strength of the lord who named him should be very strong. Forming an alliance with this lord might be a benefit to our lizardman tribe. But I am still worried about the strength of the Orc Lord. The head guard looked at the old lizardman chief in front of her with some worry, and she couldn't help but blurt out. Father, I will protect the tribe. In the depths of a dense forest, in a hidden corner, Sue's figure quietly emerged. He stood there quietly, eyes tightly closed, as if asleep, yet also seemingly waiting silently for something important to happen. Time passed second by second. Finally, Sue slowly opened his eyes, a sharp light flashing within them, and looked straight towards a certain direction in the distance. Before long, a petite and exquisite blue figure flew from afar, like a light butterfly, silently landing on Sue's broad and sturdy shoulder. Sue, well done. A crisp and pleasant voice came, precisely from that small blue figure. It turned out that this figure was the Q version of Granstar, who was now praising Sue with a face full of delight. Hearing this, a faint smile, almost imperceptible, appeared on Sue's usually stern and serious face. He bowed slightly, expressing humility. Thank you for your praise, great Granista. This is merely my duty. The Q version of Granista's petite body sat steadily on Sue's shoulder, looking particularly adorable. Sue, with a hint of doubt and curiosity, asked. Great Granista, you specifically summoned me here, is there any task that needs to be assigned? Facing Sue's question, Granista did not answer directly, but instead stretched out a small hand and casually pinched a crystal-clear ice flower. While playing with the ice flower in his hand, he looked at Sue thoughtfully. Haha, isn't it because I've been staying in the village for too long? I came out to cause some trouble for someone. Granista said with a helpless smile. In fact, Granista had been pestered by Tori in the village to the point of unbearable, so he decided to simply come out and do some serious business. He planned to resolve the clown who was playing tricks in the dark before the decisive battle with the Pighead Emperor. Cause trouble? Sue asked doubtfully. By the way, Sue, did you remind that old lizardman chief? This is going to be a good show. A trace of cunning flashed in Granista's eyes. Although Sue was still somewhat puzzled, he respectfully replied. Great Granista, please rest assured. According to your instructions, I used telepathy to convey Gavel's situation to that old lizardman chief before leaving. Granista nodded in satisfaction, secretly admiring Sue's ability and reliability. Well done, Sue. Having you by my side really saves me a lot of worry. Haha, that's good. It's just a pity that I can't witness a father-son feud in person. But it's good this way, so as not to cause excessive losses to the lizardman race. The corners of Granista's mouth curled up slightly, seemingly quite satisfied with this result. Sue stared at the smile on Granista's face, and a sense of emotion welled up in his heart. His master seemed to be quite interested in this kind of boisterous affair. Great Granista, so you came here personally this time to create some trouble? Sue couldn't help but ask again. Granista didn't beat around the bush, but simply responded. Yes. Following that, Granista continued to ask. Sue, is that clown demon you've been tracking still within your surveillance range? Hearing this, Sue instantly understood. My lord, are you planning to go and make trouble for that clown demon? Sue stared sharply at Granista, seemingly wanting to get confirmation from his lord's eyes again. Sure enough, when he came into contact with Granista's affirmative gaze, Sue already had the answer in his heart. Sue slowly closed his eyes, concentrated his spirit, and used his powerful magic to establish contact with a shadow clone far away. Time passed slowly. Finally, Sue suddenly opened his eyes, a shocking light flashed in his eyes, then he turned his head to look at Granista sitting on his shoulder, and respectfully said. My lord, I have just confirmed the location of that clown demon. A hint of surprise flashed in Granista's eyes, and he nodded slightly, indicating for Sue to continue. Sue took a deep breath and then reported. This demon's strength is a bit strange. I can't sense the other party's magic level using magic perception and detection skills. Not only that, I can even feel that the clown-like demon seems to have already noticed my traces. It is deliberately leading my shadow clone in circles in this forest. When Sue spoke to this point, a trace of shame appeared on his face. After all, as an experienced tracker, it was really a loss of face to be discovered and wantonly teased by the target while performing a mission. Great Granista, this time it was my unfavorable handling of affairs, please punish me. Sue lowered his head and pleaded guilty. Hearing his subordinate's report, Granista had a little speculation about Laplace's strength. It's no wonder that Sue's shadow clone would be discovered. Granista couldn't help but pat Sue on the shoulder and smiled casually. What's there to blame? It would be strange if the other party's magic level was higher than yours and didn't discover your shadow clone. Let's go, take me to see this arrogant guy. Sue was stunned for a moment, seeing that his lord did not blame him, but he secretly decided in his heart that he could not let his lord down in the future. Yes, my lord. Open black lens bracket shadow movement close black lens bracket activate. Sue's figure gradually merged into the darkness, taking Granista constantly sneaking through the shadows in the forest. The speed was very fast. In the distance, one could see Sue appearing on the tree for a while, and appearing in a corner of the jungle for a while. Each flash increased the distance of movement by a few points. Sue, this guy, is simply a natural sneaker. Granista saw Sue using the open black lens bracket shadow movement close black lens bracket skill so skillfully, and if he added his open black lens bracket shadow clone close black lens bracket and open black lens bracket thread control close black lens bracket. There is also the attack ice magic bestowed and granted by Granstar, which makes up for the lack of attack power and lethality. In the darkness, it is like a Shadow King. Granstar couldn't help but have an idea in his heart. It seems that after the Pighead Emperor incident is over, a special organization for collecting information and assassination should be established, and the leader of this organization will be handed over to Sue. Granstar and Sue's figures kept flashing in the forest, and even the nearby monsters did not notice these two scurrying shadows. Great Granstar, that clown demon is not far ahead. Oh. Granstar didn't expect to find it so quickly. It seems that the other party didn't think about hiding. Granstar directly unfolded his magic perception, and on a hill not far ahead, a clown-dressed demon was smiling and looking in one direction. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.